Hey, and welcome to the Mountain Cat Guitars podcast, where we discuss all things guitar related. My name is Doug Meyer, owner of Mountain Cat Guitars, and I've been buying and selling guitars professionally for over 25 years. From boutique guitar and amp builders, vintage guitar dealers and experts, guitar repairmen and luthiers, retailers, manufacturers, and of course guitar players, we talk to the people who buy, sell, play, and of course obsess over the things we love most, guitars. Hi everybody, it's Doug from Mountain Cat Guitars, and this is the Mountain Cat Guitars podcast. We are in Brooklyn at the fabulous Retrofret Guitars. We are very excited to be here with Peter Kohman, who runs this place with Steve Urich and a bunch of other cool people, which we'll get into all that. This is James Carbonetti from the Guitar Shop NYC and Carbonetti Guitars, of course. Josh Grove from Protocaster Guitars. And we would just like to thank our sponsors very quickly. Bob's Used Helicopters. We love Bob. He's been with us since the very beginning. Thank you, Bob. And La Bella Strings, the finest handmade strings in the world. And we're just going to get right down to it. So this is the new Retrofret Guitars. This is not the first this is the second Retrofret Guitars.
Yeah, it's the same company, it's just a new home.
Right, because I was at your other place, which was very cool also.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is cooler and much more convenient.
Yeah,
you know,
lovely.
like.
Well, we moved, basically we had a big loft in Gowanus.
Right.
And as anyone involved with New York knows, you know, real estate values went kind of loopy here. So we owned a chunk of that building, but not the whole thing. So the consortium was like, well, I think it's time to sell this building. Fortunately, because we owned a chunk of it, we were able to leverage that into getting our own building where nobody can tell us what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that. I thought you owned that building and sold it and bought this building.
We were able to take our chunk of that huge building, which had a lot of stuff going on in it, and get this smaller, but to us.
That's right, because you had to go upstairs and over something.
Yeah, there were all sorts of other things going on.
It was like the secret garden.
I mean, we didn't move because we wanted to.
Right.
We moved because we had to. But in the long run,
it always works out,
you know, it works out. What it enabled us to do is really rebuild the space to our
in the way you want to, right?
Because we came in here, and this place was pretty much gutted. It had been like an office. There were all these computer terminals in here, and there's this crap everywhere. We just gutted the place.
You had someone draw up the plans for all this, like.
Yeah, we kept the beams on the ceiling, and that was about it. And we were able to, we spent a year kind of laying out, and we had at that point, 15 years experience of people coming and going and playing guitar.
Right.
And like, how are people comfortable? How can we make a space? See, here we have several different areas. So if someone's playing a classical over there, someone can play
an electric guitar over there. Right.
We have a dedicated electric room now that's soundproof, that's closed off. So if somebody wants to wail away on a Strat, somebody can still play a little more.
That's the way to do it.
I mean, you'll hear them, but it's not kind of in your face.
Yeah, it's not like, can you get that kind of stuff?
So we were really lucky to be able to find this building. We looked at literally, no exaggeration, about 50 buildings.
Oh, wow.
And most of them just either wouldn't work or were too expensive or would require rebuild. And Steve found this building and said, I think, it was kind of like late in the day. And he said, I think you should take a look. And I walked in and I just looked and went, this is it.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
This is the place.
That's what you need to feel.
I had this vibe about it. I saw instantly what we could do with it. And we've been really happy here. And it allows us, the old place, I used to have an office. First, I shared an office with other people, which was nuts. Then I had my own office in this big kind of empty shipping room area, and I had to run across, if I wanted to adjust the truss right, I had to run across the roof to get the tools.
It's always pleasant.
Like so now everyone's set up. Everyone has their own area, and during the pandemic, it's been crucial because we can all work in our own enclosed spaces. We're not sitting in an office across from someone.
Well, it's one of the reasons we're wearing masks for the folks at home, although you're supposed to, but you wouldn't normally. But but there was a scare here.
Yeah. I've had 2 employees be made really. I don't really get political, but the bullshit that this is not real. I've had 2 employees sick as hell from this thing. I've seen it firsthand.
And young
guys, both in their 20s, because they're out there, messing around in the world. The old men have been staying inside. But, the fact that we all have our own working areas. And
that helps you can keep working.
That's made a huge difference.
This whole thing.
It's allowed us to keep open, go through the whole thing. But we've had to close the showroom a couple of times because we've had someone come down sick and we have to just.
Yeah.
Right, then you gotta do what you
Same
gotta
here.
do, right. Yeah, that's right, you closed, right?
But I've been shipping stuff out still.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
coming in and I do the, I still.
Yeah, you never stop shipping,
Never
you know.
stop shipping.
Yeah, we have our similar thing where we're like living in the shop.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I got 2 guitars to pack today when we're done.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I live right above my shop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's,
Like-
well, that's what keeps you going.
Well, you do too, you live upstairs.
I keep watching this place. I sweep I'm like the old 19th century shopkeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that push
But
Right.
John D'Angelico lived above the thing and
yeah.
made wine in his bathtub
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's a very 19th
Cobra's
century-
hero.
It's a very 19th century way of living. That's-
We're expecting some toilet wine after this is done.
Yeah. I was like the thing with John D'Angelico, never went on vacation, but he went to Jersey once.
Yeah, yeah.
But you didn't
that was
like it.
Yeah, that was it. He walked 2 blocks.
He went to Neptune, New Jersey. He's like,
That's
never
pretty
again,
Never leave.
never again.
He went out into the bay once fishing, and that was his fun.
Yeah, he's like, that's it. Never again. I was gonna sit around my guitars.
Far from home.
Yeah, like lived upstairs, made wine. Then he'd show up every morning with his jug of wine or something. Like, that guy's my hero.
Yeah,
that is
man.
hilarious.
And he wasn't even an old man, he just looked like one. He's younger than I am now.
He looked like an old man.
Yeah.
very
That,
early
in those
on.
pictures, but he's younger than I am
I
now.
found a photo of him at age.
He was like
about
your
30.
age.
He already looks like an
He looked like an old man with a
wow.
white, wife beater. It's all like dirty.
Tough life.
People often ask me, because I've had so many guitars in my hands, like, what's your favorite guitar, man? It's kind of an empty question, because it depends on what I need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people always go, "What's your favorite guitar in your shop?"
But I could tell you this. I had to move a couple years ago, and I had to be in a sublet for 6 months. And I took 2 guitars, and one of them was my D'Angelico. So there you go.
Yeah,
I own
yeah,
one
there it
guitar
is.
right now,
Yeah.
and it's my D'Angelico.
Right.
Is that right? You only have one
get
guitar?
One of those in your hand.
Yeah, I have one.
It
Like
becomes
I have 2
like-
of them. You have my other one.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
2 of them. He has one of mine.
I won't say it's the best sounding guitar I've ever played. I won't say it's the best guitar, but you pick it up and
It's-
It makes you feel good every time.
Every time I just put my hand on the neck, go, this
Yeah.
is my guitar.
Mine too.
yeah.
I play mine every
That's
day.
If I'd gone back to 1934 and had him make a guitar for me, it's exactly what I would have wanted.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I'm with you.
that's it.
Yeah, I play mine every day.
Yeah, that's-
I don't have any other guitar I play
There's
every
some-
single day.
Yeah,
When
same.
a lot of people, this segues into another thing. People talk about why do you love vintage instruments? Like, why don't you love? I think there's a lot of great builders building
Mm-hmm.
lovely modern instruments. I have nothing against them. The thing that inspires me is when I pick something up, is where the history, where's it been, what music was.
Yeah,
was
like I like old
played.
houses.
Yeah,
I like old
it's the same
buildings.
thing,
I like
so-
old everything.
As
I
a,
like
as a
this.
native New Yorker, the whole John D'Angelico thing is just kind of magical to me. 'Cause I remember
Yeah.
that neighborhood when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He died when I was 4 years old, but I still kind of feel this,
Affinity,
connection,
yeah.
that concept of the local guy.
There's a time capsule built into the instrument
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was built in
you
the
get
30s,
One, and
yeah.
we were talking about this a little bit earlier. You get one that's been played heavily by one person, and like their soul is played.
They're in
Yeah.
there, yeah, no doubt.
Because I think, and I'm going to segue a little bit here. I'm going to preach to the choir.
can segue as
Now,
much as-
people, you are listening to me, man. I'm going to preach to you
I
now.
gotta tell those guys.
The thing is, to me, I don't just like old stuff. I like old houses. I like old paintings. I like old cars. But if I was selling you, let's say, a painting, if I had a Modigliani on the wall, you may have a deep emotional response. You may look at it and go, oh, it's so beautiful. It moves my soul. The painting doesn't give a crap about you. You don't interact with it. But you pick up that guitar, and you and it create something new.
Yeah, it's
You
functional
interact
art.
with the instrument in
No
a
doubt.
way that nothing else does that. And that's why I find these things so exciting
Yeah.
to this day. I love handing some 26-year-old kid will come in here, and I'll hand him a guitar he's never played before. And if he gets it, or she gets it, because a lot of women are playing now, which is to me much more exciting, because that's half the population that
Yeah.
haven't been experiencing this.
Good point.
The vintage.
That's regularly, at least.
Along the way. So
Totally.
I'm actually really that's one of the big developments to me. When I hand it to someone, and if they get the right vibe, like their eyes will light up.
Yeah.
And this isn't like the cheap, Chinese thing that they
Totally.
find.
Right.
This has got a vibe, and it'll take you, if you let it, it'll take you somewhere. It'll take
Absolutely.
you.
That's very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you will take it someplace you've never been, and it will take you.
Right.
I one of the problems in this business, as I'm sure you know, is now I've got a decent sized collection of instruments, not as big as I once had, and I'm not always sure why I want something, or why something moves me. So, we go through phases where we buy stuff, and I do a lot of the buying, and Steve does a lot, and we argue about it constantly, and it's the give and take. We see different things. But I saw a Gibson bass on a dealer list last week, and I said, oh, that's a good one. We should buy that. And it came in. And I took it upstairs last night and I started cleaning it and I went, oh man, it's a 64 Gibson EB2, which
Nice.
is the British invasion bass.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
totally, yeah.
And I have an Epiphone Rivoli, a 64. It's the same instrument.
Yeah.
Right.
But as I was cleaning this EB2, I was just like, this came from Salt Lake City. The guy's leather strap fuses for his amp are in the case. And I just had that thing click in my brain.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I have to keep this one.
Right.
And I don't need an EB2.
Right.
I
Doesn't
have
matter.
one.
But it just, then you
Doesn't
start
matter.
But
steaming.
there's something about the
This
vibe
instrument,
of this,
right.
This one has a vibe.
That's what
This
happened.
guy
Yeah.
owned it.
Right.
He had his amp fuses in the case. Like
Right.
that
Back on
hasn't
tour.
been, hasn't been messed with since the day the guy put it away who was playing, and he kept his amp fuse in case his amp blew on the gig.
Yeah.
It has his worn leather strap in it.
It's the best.
I cleaned the crud off it, but he had old Fender flat wound strings on it, which I
Nice.
just cleaned up and put right back on.
Yeah.
And I just got that vibe. This bass speaks to me.
Me, right.
It makes me
Yeah.
want to play Animals songs. And the sad thing is, again, I was warning these guys. My theme song is "Don't you stop me talking. I'll tell everything I know." But once I start, I can't stop. I had one of the great experiences of my life was getting to play with Hilton Valentine from the Animals a bunch of times.
Yeah, what a champion.
Because not only is he a hero of mine when I was a kid, like really a hero, because I love that band and I love what he did, because he never learned a new note. Like he figured out how he wanted to play guitar in 1964, and that's how he still plays. And it's like
Set
some
in
people
stone.
consider that stupid. I consider that genius because
Yeah.
I've been to see John
First
Fogerty,
note.
who's another hero, and he's learned to play like Eric Clapton, and it's just no fun anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like John Fogerty, but Hilton picks up the guitar like that's Hilton.
Yeah.
That's Hilton from the Wildcats to the Animals to the rest of his life. And he was just the sweetest
Way
guy.
cooler.
So I kept this Rivoli around because when I played with him, I had to play the Jazz Chandler Animals bass. And Hilton just passed away a
Yeah.
couple months ago. And I really, you get old, my mom warned me about this, you start losing your friends, it's a thing.
Yeah,
But I
it
really
sucks,
felt
yeah.
that one because he was such a gentleman. And he'd been through so much crap in his life. Like
Right.
ripped off, blind, living on the dole back in England.
Right.
Acid tripped out for 10 years. And he'd settled into being this beautiful kind of Zen guy who loved Buddhism and Newcastle Brown Ale.
That goes together, yeah.
And
In a weird way.
so when I was just playing with this EB2, I was like, man, I'd love to be able to play this with Hilton. So I think I might have to just, like, the vibe.
That's
all
what
came together,
happens, because
Yeah.
you wind up with all these guitars, and
Yeah,
people
but
go,
that's
why do you
the
have
way
all these
instruments,
guitars?
they speak to you.
Because they spoke to me at
Right.
some
Yeah,
point,
that's
in some way.
something.
Especially at Chelsea, we got
Yeah.
guitars every day. So, like, that would happen. You'd play something and just be like,
I got it.
it spoke to me, so it's in my house someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
How
so
many
like,
times?
It happens.
Yeah. How many times when I was like 18 or 19 working with you and I didn't have anything, I was like, Doug, I need to get this. And
yeah, like,
you'll
I'll lend you
figure
the
it out.
money.
Like, you'll always figure it out.
He had better guitars than I had. He was like 17 on tour, working for us for like $3 an hour. He had like a Les Paul SG.
I was like, I
He had a
need
park
this.
amp.
Yeah.
He sold it in
had-
the middle of the country someplace for
I had
gas
a
money.
good one.
He had
Yeah.
everything.
It was a fun run. Of
Everyone's like that.
guitars.
Craig would run back and be like, I need this guitar. Like, I'll lend you the money.
Yeah, we'll
You know?
figure it out.
And then I do it to Danny. Like, I'm taking this. You
Yeah,
know?
it's like, I got that D'Angelico from Denny's. Like I was like, I'll take it as is.
Yeah,
Don't
whatever.
touch it.
But that's what happens because we love these. But that's the thing with vintage guitars. It's never happened to me with a newer guitar.
Yeah.
No.
Where I picked it up and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like this guitar
Yeah.
is doing it. You know, like that's
Yeah.
where I'm sitting. It was off the wall.
I know people who only want newer instruments because they want to put their stink on it.
Right, that's cool.
They don't want anyone else's funk. And
It's
I
different for
appreciate
everybody.
that,
I respect it, but it's
But I just like old stuff, and you
Yeah.
can feel the previous owners in these
I
things.
usually
Like,
find them to be the less interesting players.
like I picked up that
the
guitar
ego is more
on the way
important.
here. Like that's like a really old Epiphone from that woman on Riverside Drive. We picked it up. She was so cool. I spoke to her on their phone. She studies with a friend of mine, and that guitar has a lot of soul.
Yeah, it
You
does
know,
have a lot of
and
soul.
just needs a little work. It needs a
It
little
needs-
love.
A lot of the people didn't know, now, these things have become things now that we take care of. It's very much
Right.
like, I would have been a car guy if my life had gone a different
Yeah, yeah,
way.
Yeah, me too.
And
I
there's a
know.
lot of parallels to old cars
Yeah.
on this.
A lot of dealers do the Corvette
But
thing.
people
you know.
didn't know to take care of these things.
Yeah,
It was just
gotta maintain.
No one knew how,
Nobody knew how.
It was just a
And-
used
yeah,
guitar.
Yeah, just a used.
But no one knew about humidity and all that
Even people
stuff.
who treasured them didn't know
Yeah.
how to take care of
No.
them. But I always tell people, if you found a 1928 Model A
Mm-hmm.
in a garage, hadn't been driven since the 30s.
Yeah, what's the first thing you do?
Would you turn it on?
You expect to be able to put some time in
Or
it.
have some guy come over who knows what he's doing. You know,
One of the things, I write everything, the Retrofret website is our main selling tool, the website and our Instagram page, which people go nuts over.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
always
for-
on
we have I should mention, really wonderful gent named George Aslander is our photographer. He's also the good guitar player here. He's like a world-class guitar player, and he's never had the ambition to go out in the world and try to make a name, but he can sit down
He's
with
so good.
any jazz guitar player on earth, and they'll be like, oh, this guy knows
He can
what he's
play.
doing.
yeah.
But anyway, he does all our photography, and he brings the same kind of like really detailed view, and people go nuts over the pictures. So our Instagram thing is, we'll photograph a fairly normal guitar, like we just put up a 1972 Fender Music Master.
Yeah, so
Daphne Blue, beautiful looking guitar, photographed great. Somebody saw it, they bought it like literally within minutes of putting it up. Just because it looked, it has the vibe.
Yeah.
And that's,
Having proper pictures these days is really the name of the game. Make some
It
videos.
is requisite, absolutely.
Yeah, like I take care of all of Josh's stuff at Protocaster, so like because he's too busy doing this stuff. So I do all the Instagram stuff. He's good enough to send me pictures at the end of every day of everything that happened because they go to customers or
Yeah.
doing makeovers. So he's very good at sending me pictures. I send them to the customers, but half the time you put up the picture and someone's like, "I'll take it,"
Yeah.
or "Ooh, what is it? When's it going to be done?"
Yeah.
Right. Or I'll take that, but actually, can you make me one that has this or this or this?
That's kind of the way our business is these days. It's not so much someone walking into your shop. It's like it's Instagram,
Yeah.
or it'll keep changing. But at the beginning we were all making videos. That's how we started the podcast. Was we were doing videos originally, like because
Totally.
Daniel just got out of film school, and this was all just starting. So we started making these really. They're still on YouTube. Like they're 11 years old now.
Peter-
so you're younger, and they were crude.
Forgive me for interrupting you, Doug. How much of what you buy do you feel like is reflective of trends that you see kind of ebb and flow?
I would say how much of what we sell more than what because we buy anything if we see something we think is cool for the right price, we're gonna buy it.
You always buy
Yeah.
it.
Essentially. What we sell is often very reflective of trends, and where prices go is reflective of trends.
Yeah.
Sure.
You see that stuff ebbs and flows all the time because it's much quicker now. It's like, they say in the 19th century, it took like 6 weeks to get a letter to California.
Yeah.
Now it's there in a second. So a guitar trend, and there are people who are trendsetters. Like if you're under the age of like 33, a lot of guys are obsessed with Blake Mills. I've met Blake. He's a nice guy. He's coming. We've had a long talk at the shop, but I don't really know. Like he's not important to me
I don't know
because
who
the
he is.
people I love.
Sure.
I learned about 50 years ago, and that's the music I like. But
Totally.
if you're a kid, so when Blake Mills plays a guitar, like a Goya Rangemasters,
Yeah.
there's like
Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah,
people
just
want the
takes
Goya Rangemasters
Yeah.
all disappear. Here's the math on this, and I bet you've seen this too. You remember about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Billy Joe Armstrong started playing 50s Les Paul Juniors live.
Yeah, that's right
Green
when I
Day
got
was
obsessed.
the biggest band on earth. Now, Les Paul Juniors were going for about $3,500. That's a common guitar. They
Yeah.
made literally thousands of them. It's the most common 1950s Gibson.
Is that right? I
A lot
didn't
of
know
them are
that.
messed up.
Yeah.
But they made.
Yeah, they were
look at I'll show you the production. They made several thousand a year for
Yeah.
about 5 years. So compared to like a Sunburst or compared to a lot of more obscure
Yeah,
things,
so many more.
they made a lot. But how many are on the vintage market at any given point? 10, 20 maybe?
Yeah, a bunch.
On a good day. So if 100,000 kids, they say the Green Day plays on tour to 2 million people.
Yeah.
100,000 kids go, wow, that's a cool guitar he's playing.
I want
man."
one.
10,000 go, wow, maybe I'd want to get one of those. 1,000 actually look at one,
Yeah.
and 100 want to buy one.
Yeah.
The market goes nuts because there aren't 100 available with
Right.
a vintage guitar. With a new guitar, this is what Fender and Gibson have latched onto. They can do the Billy Joe Armstrong signature model.
Right.
And,
And
they'll
And
sell
bang 'em
thousands
out,
of them.
yeah.
But with the actual vintage piece, every shop in the U.S. will be like, wow, I'm out of juniors.
Yeah.
And they'll go to buy another one. And suddenly the
Price
price
went up.
will be $4,500.
Right.
And then you got to charge $55, and the price will go like whop.
Yep.
And that's how
Yeah.
the trend that you're asking about, it affects the buying on the back end because it's the selling it affects immediately.
Totally.
I'll suddenly sell out of something and go,
What's
wow,
going on here?
I had those juniors for
Right.
6 months.
Who's
How come
playing
they all
one,
disappeared?
right.
And then I'll discover it's because there's some trend on it.
Yeah.
It's
But
happening
that's
a lot of the
always worked
cheaper
that way.
guitars because a lot of kids can't afford They can't afford.
What happened with
60s.
Jack White and the National
Oh yeah,
Guitars?
the National
Sure, yeah.
nuts, yeah. And now they've gone back down because most people.
Because now he's
Like,
kind
okay,
of
he's kind of
He doesn't-
suck.
he's moved on to some.
He doesn't play them anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't play them anymore.
Yeah,
But
so-
you know, someone else will come out playing something else.
Yeah.
That used to happen in Vintage Guitar Magazine. Like you could
Yeah.
tell back when everyone read Vintage Guitar before the internet. Like it was the only
Yeah.
place. You knew what you were going to get phone calls from if you were
Yeah.
reading Vintage Guitar.
Yeah, you saw-
I remember the Black Crowes bass player came in. I recognized him. I didn't know him at the time. I knew him later. And he was like, "Do you have any Gibson Les Paul signature basses?" I was like, "No, because you used one in a video." He's like, "I know, and I can't get a backup for mine."
Yeah.
I was like, "You caused it, though."
Yeah.
Like he's like, "I know," and he couldn't get another one.
Well, certain guitars, I mean, I'm pointing at the back end of it, but those Harmony H44s, those early Harmony solid
Oh,
vinyl,
so
Yeah.
cool.
they're not a super playable guitar by a modern standard, but they do a thing. But, you know, Ribot got into them, and other people started getting into them, and the price, they've been a $200 guitar
Forever, yeah.
forever, you know, 185 bucks.
That would happen.
And the price, and suddenly, and Ribot was in here going, yeah, you know,
I
"God damn it,
screwed
can't-
myself."
I can't find another one.
Well,
you
especially
know?
Jimmy Page would always say the wrong model amp that was on Zeppelin 1
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he wouldn't say it was a Thunderbolt
Yeah,
early
he
on
didn't
because
want people-
he didn't want people buying Thunderbolts. He said it was another model or something.
Yeah.
He's smart.
Well, Ribot said to me, Waits has got the best one and he won't sell it to me, and every one I try isn't as good as his.
That's how.
But, you know,
That was always Walter and Nightbot.
yeah,
Like,
but it turns into the thing.
oh, I love those
It
guitars.
turns into.
That's Roman gold is the
yeah,
color, right?
Yeah.
It turns,
Oh, is that what? Oh,
That's Roman gold. Right, I had one of these.
it turns into the H44 thing.
Yeah, but that
And-
color is
you
the
know.
coolest.
oh, that is a beautiful bronzy copper.
I did that on a guitar. Like,
Craziest neck joint.
Yeah, it was Paul Ronan.
It's a
Paul Roney,
metric.
yeah.
Roney, yeah.
yeah, he was like, "What color do you want your model to be?" I was like, "Roman gold."
Yeah.
I will, there's to me, there's a couple of brilliant design elements in this, and there's a couple of design flaws. The main flaw is there's no neck angle.
Right.
K got
It's
it right.
straight.
Recently, I had a K131, which is the K version of this, and they got a couple of things wrong. But theirs has a neck angle and an adjustable bridge. You can set the action as low as you want.
Right.
And
Fine.
as well.
That's why I
These-
sold mine.
You always have to finagle them.
Yeah.
The Ribot and the Tom Waits guys, they
Sync
screw
those.
the tailpiece to the body.
Smart. Yeah.
And that gives
Better
you a great
angle.
go. If they designed this like a telly with a string through, it'd be one of the world's great guitars.
Yep.
Because
Totally.
it'd be much more playable.
Totally.
That's why I sold mine ultimately.
Yeah.
It was like the thin twin. You know, like
Yeah.
you could never get a neck. It had no
Yeah,
neck
yeah.
angle. So
Well,
when
the thin twin, you can do an exit on.
I did an X out of
If
mine,
you
right?
look at it, it's funny, the neck will come off.
Yeah.
So a thin twin can be fixed. The thing about, I mean, the characteristic of the thin twin is the incredibly inefficient pickup.
They're this big under there. We never knew they were big under there. They look like lipstick
But
pickups.
some
But
people-
under there, they're this big.
People have learned to love, see, I mean, I come out of the era where the vintage guitars that were worth money were the ones perfect for playing music in 1971. You plug it into a 100-watt Marshall.
Yeah, Les Paul
you turn it up
Custom.
as loud as-
Doesn't feedback.
So it's Les Pauls, Strats, 335. Nothing else was cool.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
an
but-
Ibanez
but
wasn't
my
cool.
problem-
330, don't even think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Oh God.
Especially with the pickup in the
That happened to
middle.
us, yeah.
Now that's the coolest guitar.
We used to go to 48th Street and be like,
Yeah.
"We want a 335." They're like, "Well, you don't have enough money. Well,
Yeah.
take this 330." We'd be like, "Awesome! It looks just like it."
Yeah.
You get home and like, "Woo!" You're like, "What the hell's this thing?"
What's
going on?
Died
guitar's
in the late
stupid.
60s because you
Yeah.
can't plug it into it. It's one of
We
the
didn't
greatest
know
guitars
that.
in the world.
We just-
to a 10-watt amp,
Yep.
to a 100-watt amp.
They're amazing, but wow, do they whistle through if you play rock and roll through them?
Yeah.
But we didn't know
Yeah.
that.
But my shtick is I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 1959, I was the last child of the 50s. But I didn't like modern music as a kid. I liked old rock and roll. So when I started getting into guitars, I was in 1976. I thought new guitars sucked. I was into old guitars
They did, though.
already.
You were right.
People
They in
I
fact
thought
did
were
suck.
cool
We're
playing
playing.
older guitars.
Right.
And a friend of mine, in 1978, a dear friend of mine I haven't seen in 30 years, a guy named Mikey J, who was the bass player in a New York band called the Fuzz Tones, who, you know, old line people might remember. They're a great live band. But anyway, he was my age, but we kind of like threw shit back and forth, but he was one of my kind of rock and roll mentors. He had a little more money than me, so he would take me to shows. I had no money as a kid at all. So he'd take me to see the Jay Giles band and said, "Petey, we have to go see
Oh
the
my God, it's
Jay
funny
Giles
that you just mentioned that because I just had this
Yeah.
whole thing with the Jay Giles band with a friend of mine, like
Yeah.
just how awesome they were.
Oh, they were the
great.
best. They were the best blues band in 1970. You ever listen to their first album? Promo here, first album on Atlantic. the only great white American blues band who don't overplay,
Right.
who don't go wanky.
Right.
They're a
Jay
great
Giles.
bar R&B. He's one of the great guitar
Kill it.
players. That guy's one of the great harp players of all
The
time.
whole thing.
you know?
And Peter Wolf.
Yeah, Peter Wolf.
I just
for a
got
for a bunch
turned.
of white guys from Boston.
Yeah.
What a
Someone just turned me on
fantastic-
to a Peter
Yeah.
Wolf solo album,
Yeah.
Sleepless. Mick Jagger's on it and Steve Earle. It's incredible. It's one of the best albums I've ever
Yeah.
heard.
Wait.
I didn't even know about
Stop a minute.
it. Yeah, so cool.
Don't allow it. You know.
Yeah, what a cool band.
They caught the vibe in a way. Most bands in that era were all about like cranking your amp and
Yeah.
overplaying.
Trying to be clapped in. Or,
Even at that point, I gotta say Butterfield got into the horns
love
and
Butterfield.
stuff.
Later,
and,
yeah.
And it was kind of on the slide in terms of, but
In the 70s, yeah. The Butterfield stuff with
What a weird
Blue.
diversion there.
Yeah, it's just so funny how you make those connections.
Starting
Like,
out somewhere, but
yeah, how did that even happen?
I don't even remember. I brought up Mikey.
Sorry, folks
I
at
brought up
home.
Mikey to credit him on something, and now I don't even remember.
So
what
you
it was.
saw Jay Giles in 1970?
I was 10 years old. I saw them on their in 1976 or 77,
Oh,
like
the
10th
height of their
anniversary.
thing. They're killing
And
it.
they're absolutely killer. Great.
That's
I
awesome.
saw a lot of great bands in the 70s, and again, mostly it was some friend of mine who bought me a ticket because
Right.
literally, if I had a penny, I spent it on records.
Right.
In that
So
era.
I was a record
That's
junkie
how you
always.
become, you get vinyl, and that gets you into guitars because then you want to replicate the vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
But yeah,
podcast.
I actually started out selling old records. That was my first job.
Right. So let's
Yeah.
talk about for a second
Yeah.
our mutual friend, who is right here. No, this is the third time he's blown us off. And is Chris Mojo or Chris Cush or Chris Such.
Right.
Anyone who has multiple names, you always have to be careful. But he's Mojo to us, and we
Yes.
love Mojo. So you met Mojo probably when?
Okay, so this goes back. You got some time? How much time?
How much film do we have in that
How much
thing?
time do we have?
Well, it's
So,
not really film. I know it's digital. Where's the film?
I grew up Upper West Side.
You grew up in New York City,
Yeah,
right?
I'm a New York City kid. So I started going to 48th Street when I was 15 and just staring at the windows.
Me too.
And I bought
I
my
was
first
younger.
Vintage, I bought my first vintage instrument in the summer of 1976, which was a Hofner bass.
Nice.
And I'm going to divert from the Mojo thing because we're leading to that. But I don't know how I had the balls to do this at 16 because I was a really shy kid. But I walked in and I had $65 in my pocket. Or actually, probably 65 because my friend's mom had paid us to paint the ceiling in his room and like stick stars on it. That was the
Sweet.
most money I'd ever had in the world. So I was like,
Sure.
I'm going to buy a guitar, I'm going to buy a bass. And I went to the original small We Buy, Stuyvesant, on the south side of 48th Street. And there was this old Hofner hanging on the wall. And in 1976, the Beatles were like dead. Nobody cared. Like, the Beatle revival hadn't happened. And I somehow had the balls to walk up to the counter and go, you guys, they had $95 price tag. You guys don't want $100 for that, do you? And behind the counter, I don't remember if this was actually Richard Friedman or one of his guys. I said, well, make me an offer, kid. And I pulled out the money. I got $65, and the guy went, sold. And that's how I bought my first vintage.
It's funny, I bought my first vintage guitar from Richie Friedman the day I moved to New York City. I had a little bit of a better story. I really wanted a Gibson Hummingbird because Keith Richards played one. So, and I had $1,000. I had a Paul Reed Smith. I hate to even admit it, but
It's okay.
I got it from, well, Santana had just started playing one. I was into Santana. I got one for my college graduation, and then I never played it. So I wanted a Hummingbird. So I just moved to New York City. I had no money, but I had a PRS. I put an ad in the Village Voice. The first day I was there, and it sold that day. So I had $1,000 in cash, and I really wanted a Hummingbird. So first I went to Matt Umanoff. He was not particularly nice to me. So
We all have stories about that.
yeah.
I'll give you another one.
But then I went to We Buy, and there it is. Perfect Hummingbird, exactly what I wanted. And it was $1,200. And I had $1,000. So someone told me that you go to guitar shops, and I was young, so I don't even know who told me this, late on a Friday, and offer them cash, and they'll take it because they do their books on Fridays, and they want to do
They
their...
want to book it in. They want to close up the
Right,
have
so-
a little extra sale. Yeah.
So, and they also said, show them the money.
Yeah. Well, that's critical. That story's
It's
about
true,
that.
right? So it's Richie Freeman. Of course, I didn't know him. I just moved to New York that day. So I go and I'm like, oh, that Hummingbird, can I play it? And he was like, you have any money? They would really
Look like you
they
did.
would say that. No, I definitely look like I did. I look like a crackhead. So I was like, yeah, I do. So he's like, okay, cool. So I played it, and I was like, it's really cool. I was like, I'll give you $1,000, and I show it to him because that's what the guy told me to do. Show it to him. So I was like, $1,000. He's like, no. Well, $1,200.
But this is supposed to work.
They also told me, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. I went around the corner, got a cup of coffee, came back, $1,000. He's like, get out. I was like, okay. Another hour later, $1,000. He's like, give me the money. So it gets worse though. So he gives me the guitar. I go home. I'm playing it, and all of a sudden it's rattling.
Oh no!
There's a rattle in it. I was like, well, I can't go back to that guy. So I look at the phone book. Chelsea Guitars.
Wow.
I'll go there. This is how I met Les. I go there. I walk in, and Les is behind the counter. He looks like a crazy person. I'm like, hi, I just moved to New York, and I just bought this guitar, and it's rattling. He's like, who'd you buy it from? I'm like, a guy named Richie Friedman on 48th Street. He's like, oh, it's probably a terrible guitar. I was like, what? He's like, no, I'm just kidding. He's in front of me. And he's like, give me the guitar. And he just aggressively stuffs his hand into the guitar. And I just spent every penny. And he does something and he hands it back to me. And I'm like, wow, it's not rattling. He's like, there's screws inside there. I was like, what do I owe you? He's like, for doing what? Just turning a screw?
Right,
like,
just say thanks.
Yeah. And that's how I started hanging at Chelsea. Because of course, then I go, oh, how much is that guitar?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a penny. I just spent everything on this guitar. This is like the next day. So I go, oh, it was like a broken up Les Paul special. I'm like, how much is that? And he goes, this. I was like, oh, I don't have any money. He's like, you got any stuff at home? I'm like, yeah, I got a bunch of guitars. He's like, go get them. I was like, okay, cool.
And you're in the guitar business.
I had just moved to New York. I was like 20. I was like, and that's how I started
finish up and
hanging at Chelsea. So he goes, go home and get a bunch of guitars, and then bring them back here, and I'll trade you. I was like, okay, cool. So I go home and get a bunch of crap. I ring him, and he looks at it all, and he's like, I can't trade you straight up. You got to give me like $200. And I was like, I don't have any money. He's like, well, I'll tell you what. You take this guitar, and I'll take these guitars, and then when you get $200, just bring it here.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I could just never come back here. He's like,
yeah, but you won't.
That would be on you.
Yeah.
And no one had ever been nice to us because we were kids with no money. So no, they're certainly not going to lend you $200. I couldn't believe it. I felt so guilty. I borrowed $200 from my mother to bring it to him. And then I wound up working. He was my mentor later,
a life in guitar.
So these whole things, it all connects.
Yeah. I started at Chelsea, then you were my mentor.
Right, so it goes down, and now there's Connor. And now there's a kid, Justin, who's going to start working, who's probably just a little bit older than when you started at Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's the way this is always regenerated, is this people who love guitar.
There's always someone. I'm going to loop back.
Yeah, we have to get back to Mojo somehow.
So after that, me and the friend that I grew up with spent like every waking hour in the summer. I can tell you, summer 1979, when we were 18, 19 years old, we walked to 48th Street every day. Actually, we took
every day.
we'd come up with 50 cents to get there, and then we'd walk home. We just walk up and down the street. Now his family actually had money, so he was actually able to buy a couple of guitars. I was just, you soak it up. You look and you learn.
I used to sit outside Richie's window for so long. He would be like, get out, leave here. You get fingerprints all over the window.
Yeah, so I all through college, I only owned one or two instruments. And the minute I got out of college, I was actually an art school kid. But I got out of art school and I realized I wasn't going to be an artist. I was going to try to be a musician. So what did I do? I took a job in a record store.
There you go.
So I was working 7 days a week, between 8 to 12 hours a day. So I had no life, but suddenly I had money.
Money.
So that was a
to
big
buy
thing.
guitars.
So I bought a couple of things, but in my defining moment, I think, in my vintage life, and it's a rebuy moment, but it's the old man at rebuy. You remember? Now, see, I go back farther than you guys because I'm 61 now, so I'm getting to be an old man. But the Friedman family kind of owned 48th Street. They had Manny's and Ash were all on 48th Street, but the two younger kids. They got tired of working for Pops, as far as I could tell. So Richie started his store. So he had Stuyvesant on the south side. And Steve had his own store. He had Accent Music on the north side.
But this is all before me, but I've heard.
This is all before you.
Right, I've heard of all.
So they're all they're all in competition, but they all were part of the same empire. So I was obsessed with The Who and John Entwistle. And the Thunderbird 4 was my thing. So there was a Thunderbird 4 when I started going to 48th Street in 1976, it was hanging in Webuy, and it moved from store to store, and it hung in Accent for 5 years.
Oh my
at
God.
$1,250. Now, I had a hard time finding $12.50. Literally, I'm not kidding you. $12.50 was a lot of money to me. So $1,250 nothing. But suddenly, I've been working for about a year, summer of '82.
Yeah, got some money.
Accent closes up, and they move the stock back into Webuy, the leftover stock. And that Thunderbird is hanging in Webuy, and they priced it at $950.
Whoa.
And I'm like, $950. And I went home, and I was like, and I came up with $950.
Whoa.
I didn't have enough money for the tax. And again, how you get the balls to do this, I don't know. It's like going over the hill in World War II.
Yeah.
And you just do it.
Like, fuck it, this has to happen.
And they already kind of knew me. I was this long-haired kid, and they kind of knew who I was. So I bought a couple of things there, and I said, I want to see the Thunderbird. And the guy's like, sure. He brings it down. Neck, it's been hanging on the wall for at least 7 years.
10 years, right?
The neck is warped like this. He goes, you guys just straighten the truss out on this so I can give it a try? And he goes, sure, kid. And the old man's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And God bless him. I don't remember if it was Richie or Steve, or it might even have been someone else who worked in the store. Fred Smith from television worked there for years, and I became friendly with him. They said, and they went, no, this kid's okay. And they cranked the rod, handed it back to me, and I pulled the money out, because I knew to do this.
So it told us
the
that.
money out, I
Right?
said,
Show them the money.
and I went, you fold the tax in, right? And he went, and the old man's like, yeah, okay. I handed him more money than I'd ever had in the world.
Right.
And I walked out with that Thunder, and I still have it today.
That's awesome.
Nice. I was gonna say, where is it now? Right.
I still
That's
have
always the best when you still
But,
have
but
it.
I have the receipt.
Yeah.
July 23rd, 1982. I spent every penny I'd ever had in the world on
Wow.
that bass.
It's funny, because I used to give my receipts to all my guitars to my father to hold.
Yeah.
'Cause- And then one day, not that long ago, he comes with an envelope. It's those receipts.
Wow.
Every single receipt for my Hummingbird
amazing.
guitars. I bought at Rogue Music. I bought my first vintage Telly at Rogue
Wow.
Music from Ed Sullivan.
That's awesome.
The receipts for everything, for my 4-track. Like, my father was so organized, he kept everything. So he kept all these receipts. And then one day he goes like, oh, you want these? I'm like, oh my God, it's a receipt for my Hummingbird. Like, in Richie Freeman's handwriting.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we're going to roll through from this story into how I met Kush. So
Okay,
at
so
that
we have
time,
to do
although
that.
we didn't know it, we both probably walked past each other on 48th Street because he was spending his whole day hanging out on 48th Street too. So I got involved with this bunch of kids that I'd known, and the younger brother, one of them, came to me with this. It was a Fender Telly bass that had been routed for a precision pickup.
Nice.
So it was kind of like a fake slab body precision, which I
Right.
was looking for with all
Yeah.
my might at that point. And he wanted like $185 for it. And I was like, yeah, I'll give you $185. He was the younger brother of a guy I ended up playing with a lot. And he said, well, there's this bass I want to buy in this store over on the Lower East Side. Would you come over and look at it with me? Because he was only like 16 at the time. And I said, sure. We went over and it was an Epiphone Rivoli. And that store was St. Mark's Music. I didn't know they were there. I was spending all my time and money on 48th Street.
Right.
And I already knew about Matt Yuno, but he was such a dick to me as a kid.
He's such a dick to me too, yeah.
I swore to never, me and
Me too. I wouldn't spend a penny
we
there.
were like 17 years old. We were looking in the window. We went in, and there was a white Mustang hanging. And my friend goes, that's pretty cool, but I think I want a red one. And from the back, and remember, we're the long-haired 16, 17-year-old kids. This voice from the back of the store goes, oh yeah, because the red ones always sound better. And that's how I met Matt Yuno.
Nice.
And then I went in with the Kenneth Chard Fender book, like looking for a slab body precision. So you ever see one of these? Yeah, so you know what you're talking about, kid. That's a Telly bass. That's all. That's fake. So I was like, I don't think so. But anyway, so I started going to St. Mark's Music, and Ken, the owner there, is kind of a crazy cat. He knew nothing about guitars, so he hired Chris. Chris started working there kind of by accident because he would come in and buy stuff, and Ken, the owner, realized he knew a lot more about guitars than he did. So we started kind of hiring him, like not even hiring him, but like giving him guitars to work there. And eventually
Right.
started paying him. So when I started going to St. Mark's, Chris was a skinny kid working there. And compared to most people our age, we knew a lot about guitars. Compared to now with all the books and shit out there, we didn't know squat. But at the time, like I would pick up, and again, I didn't play guitar until I was 30, really put effort into it. I was a bass player, that's what I did. I played guitar to write songs.
Yeah.
But, So I'd pick up like an EBO and I'd go, oh, that's an early one. And Ken would be like, how do you know that? You can't know that. And I'm like, well, you look at a bunch of pictures of people playing.
Right.
You can see what they're playing in 1962 and what they're playing in 1969.
Right.
And it looks
That's the same
different.
thing, right?
So, but he didn't have that mentality.
Right.
He's like, nobody knows this stuff. You can't know that. So like, okay, nobody knows it. So I knew when he made a mistake and I would buy it. And Chris knew the same thing. Chris would tell him, hey, you messed up. That's a good one. That's a bad one, because Ken had no clue. So Chris got friendly with me from coming. I would come into the store. At that point, I was working 6 days a week. I had a day off. So what did I do on my day off? I went and bought
Guitars.
I took all the money at that point. I mean, basic economics of life. I was living in an apartment with 2 other people. The rent was like $700, so I was paying like $200-something a month rent. I was making $200-something a week at my job.
You're rich.
But I had no life
Right.
because I was there. I didn't go out at night. I didn't buy food. Like, we took money out of the till to buy lunch every day. That was what fed me.
Yeah.
So I had like between $400 and $600 a month to spend
To
on
play on
instruments.
fun
Now,
stuff.
back in that era, something cool that we buy that wasn't a Fender or Gibson was $225.
Yeah.
That was the stock price. Didn't matter. Guild Starfire, Burns Bison, whatever
Any
it
of
was,
it, yeah.
$225. Because they figured it wasn't worth $200, they wouldn't sell it.
Yeah.
So nothing was like $100. They were a piece of junk. It was still $225. But I bought a lot of really good stuff for $225 if it was a Gibson.
Yeah. Mostly
Like-
any box. Like,
Yeah, any Vox, any Burns, anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm not true of all stars. Actually, the first real, I have a Burns obsession. This is probably
We know.
the subject. But the first
Oh, you haven't
real-
written that book yet,
The
though, right?
first real Burns I ever bought was an Accent, and it was a new sonic bass. I didn't realize how rare it was at the time because I had no idea what it was. Actually, I just knew it was a Burns, and it's this tiny little pocket-sized bass. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Could I try that? And he goes, yeah, it sounds like a Fender, man. I'm like, a Mustang? He goes, no, like a Precision. And I plugged it in, and he's right. This little toy had the biggest sound. So I paid $425 for a new sonic bass, which is probably 3 times what it was actually worth.
Yeah.
But it was just so
No,
cool.
so
And
cool, right?
I'd
Yes.
never seen one before. And then it was in perfect shape. And that's sort of you go down the slippery slope there. But when I started going to St. Mark's, Chris discovered that I was into all this stuff, and he introduced me to Skip Henderson. Or rather, Ken introduced me to Skip Henderson. I don't know if you know about the legend of Skip Henderson. Skip Henderson
I was in New York all the time, yeah.
He was a nutcase, but he was a real mentor to both me and Chris. And he was obsessed with old stuff, old hair pomades. He was obsessed. He had an obsession with like the black experience in America.
A lot of guys that age did.
The bordered on creepy. It was genuine and it was honest, but it bordered on creepy sometimes because he was a pretty white guy. But
That happened back then.
yeah, but he was obsessed. He had a wide knowledge, a really bad sarcastic attitude, a super wide knowledge of instruments, and he would get stuff from England. So for someone like me who was obsessed with these weird English guitars, this was the connection.
The guy,
yeah.
And he started running stuff over kind of for me. So I got my first like Beatles Hofner from him. I got 2 Burns Bison basses through him. It's like he was the one who was finding all this stuff and bringing it over. And me and Chris got to be friends. We started making trips out because Skip was in Jersey.
Right.
I didn't have a car. Chris didn't have a car, but his girlfriend had a car. So
Hey.
we started making trips out there. And he started, like, when he would get something at St. Mark's, he would call me first. So we got to be pretty tight after a few years. And when I was, the musical thing gets complicated. I was in a band called the Trifles, who were like this weird 60s style band. And we got, popular is the wrong word, but we were sort of notorious in that scene. And I got pulled into a band that 2 members of the Fuzz Tones decided to start. The Fuzz Tones was a very hot band around there. They actually were touring
I
internationally.
think I had his AC30.
Yeah. You
There's a
probably
bunch of Fuzz Tones set lists.
Yeah.
And like a monkey mask and like
Yep.
some other weird things in the case.
That's probably it. So
With 2
anyway,
fans in the back.
I got pulled into this band that became the Headless Horseman, which was me and Ira Alon from the Fuzz Tones. And we were sort of like, this, I'm arrogant, we were like the cream of the New York
That
60s.
scene, right.
Ira was by far the best drummer. Alon was absolutely the best guitar player. I was certainly the flashiest bass player. And we started as a trio. And Ira, this story is tangential, but Ira decided he was going to be a rock star, and he got in this band that had a development deal, and they sat in development hell for us, so we lost our drummer. we decided, well, without him, we're going to have to expand it to a 4-piece. So Alon's like, would you know anyone who could use the guitar player? I was like, well, there's this guy who works at St. Mark's, and he's like a punk rock dude, but he loves 60s stuff. Maybe he would be good. So I asked Chris, hey, would you want to come and audition for this band that we have? And he was like, yes. So he became the rhythm guitar player in the Headless Horseman, and that's when we really became friends.
Right.
That's awesome.
So a couple years into that, he was working, Ken had moved St. Mark's Music into New York Guitars. They took over the old Irving Clough photo studio on 14th Street, where Betty Page had been whipped and
Right.
everything. Like, one of their employees was so obsessive, he would find the spot on the floorboards where Betty Page's shoe had stolen.
Wow.
Oh, that's just, look at the molding there. There's that nick in the molding. That's where her foot was.
Wow.
Like, he would find that.
Man, that is obsessive.
That's, yeah, a
But
little
they
out
had
there.
kind of a vibe, but they ran that for about a year, and it was like exactly when it was 86 to 87. They ran that for about a year, and then Ken basically absconded with all the money and all the tax money, and Chris was kind of left with the store with the IRS coming in to seize everything. So they said, come down, take anything you want. They're going to come and seize it. So he was kind of on the outs. I've been working in record stores at that point for 7 years, 6.5 years, and I was kind of tired of it. So we started just talking at rehearsals. Why don't we start a guitar store? So I put up he put up whatever, his money was all down the hole with Ken. He put up the money to start the store with Ken, so he was fucked. So I put up the money, and we got a little space, and we opened Mojo Guitars.
And that was on
By the
14th
way,
Street.
not on 14th Street, on 12th Street. 12th Street between 1st and 2nd. That was where the original Mojo was.
Huh.
And I want to put the rest of the rumor here. Everybody calls him Mojo now. I fucking named that. He wanted to call it Airline Guitars.
So we should call him Airline.
So it sounds like his girlfriend's name. And I was like,
that'd be weird.
And I was
It
like,
sounds
no,
about right.
we're not calling it Arlene Guitars. That's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Well, when I met
And we were
Mojo,
throwing
everyone called him
names back and
Mojo.
forth. Yeah.
I didn't even know he had a real name.
Yeah, well,
Like,
but I gave him that fucking name. I will slap him in the face if he disputes that story.
I never knew that wasn't his last name
Yeah.
until like a few years ago.
So we opened Mojo Guitars in July '87, and I don't know, you couldn't. It's like music. You can't do it. We did it on a shoestring.
Yeah.
We did it on $2,500, which
Yeah.
is what I had. And I put instruments from my own collection on the wall.
That's what I
so we
did.
had
Yeah.
stuff.
So it looked like you had shit.
Yeah. So the guy's not for sale.
Yeah, no, I would say.
Yeah, look at the first pictures of Mountain Cat. They're all my guitars.
I quit my job at the
Yeah,
record
yeah.
store, so I put every penny I had into it. And his dad was supposed to put up money, and true to the family
Didn't.
name. But somehow we survived for a couple of years.
You're more aggressive that way. Like I feel like I could go into a bank and get a loan when I opened Mountain Cat.
Yeah.
And a couple years before that I could have.
Yeah.
But the economy had crashed completely
Yeah.
right before I did Mountain Cat. It crashed in 2009. And I opened Mountain Cat in 2009.
Yeah, we both did it the same. Like, let's
Same
start
year. I walked into a bank and they laughed. They literally laughed.
We opened in '87, '88.
I was like, can I have $100,000? They're like,
Huge-
you can have $5.
Yeah, the huge New York crash was
Yeah.
87, 88. We probably benefited from it.
Yeah.
Because we got this cheap space on the Lower East Side, and it was still Junkieville down there.
Yeah.
We were between like a CD antiques place where the guy didn't have a bathroom, so he pissed in a pot, and he would dump the pot in the street.
Ah,
Nice.
And a Chinese restaurant, and we used to get like a fried chicken from the Chinese restaurant, so it was the cheapest thing. And the pigeons would be on the street, and Chris would go, lunch? And the guy would go, no, chicken. And be like, lunch?
it's-
But you never knew, really. You had
but yeah,
you had that
guy walked away, he's like,
Yeah.
now it's your fucking lunch.
They were grabbing them. But we started this little store, and we survived for a few years. And, things always go good, bad, ugly. I realized after a few years the place wasn't going to do what I wanted it to do. And also the band was, you go through crap in a band.
Totally.
And
Well, you guys were touring the world.
we took tours of Europe, without getting into all the personal stuff, I walked out of the store eventually.
It happens.
Just because it wasn't going.
Partnerships are hard anyway.
It wasn't going where I needed to go, so I basically.
But you guys were in a band together too.
Yeah, so I walked down the store and I.
Did you walk out of the band also?
Well, I said to the other guys in the band, me and Chris aren't going to work together anymore. Here's your choice: you can keep him or you can keep me. You may
Oh, it's one of those. So you didn't play in the band anymore.
And they just they hummed and hawed. And I said, all right. So I walked out on that band as well.
Oh, so it all ended at the same time.
So it all ended at the same time. And, I walked out feeling like Chris owed me something. And I still did business with him for a few years later, but stuff started to disappear. Bass disappeared down the drain. And you know, for years and years, I would get these misses. Chris wants to know what it would take for you to be his friend again. They said, we can pay back the money he owes me, for one thing. And gradually over time,
It happens, yeah.
you know, and now now I would say we're pretty good friends. Although it doesn't mean I wouldn't hit him in the head with a bass again for the right thing. And, you know, he might stab me with something.
Well, he should be sitting right here to defend himself, so since he can't,
Well,
we can talk shit about him, which is awesome.
We over the past 10 years, we have a working relationship, and you know, he calls me basically every couple of days, and we chat.
Yeah, every time I talk to him, he just spoke to you, and I speak to Mojo every day.
We talk about guitars. I mean, we're like two old.
Mojo is like Richie Friedman in the way, like Danny used to say, no one likes guitars on this planet more than Richie Friedman. Like I remember one time we were sitting at Chelsea, me and my friend Roger, and the Paisley Telly reissues just came out, the Blue Flowers, and we call Richie. And we're like, hey, Richie, what are those Blue Flower? Like, what could we get those for? And he gives us the price, and then we're talking. And literally 45 minutes later, he comes, pulls up in front of Chelsea, double parks, runs in, throws us 2 of those, and runs back out.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, what do we owe you for this? I don't know. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
We're like, Jesus! Like, I still have that guitar.
That's awesome. Wow.
But he was just the hardest working man in show business. He, you know, like he would do that all the time. Like he just loved it.
Yeah.
Like Mojo loves it.
Well, it becomes your, you know, it becomes your
It's an
life.
obsession.
But some people are just so into it. Like they, you know, like Friedman would, you know, never stopped.
Yeah.
Like never.
Well, as long as you have a sense of humor, you know, the thing that I find most annoying in people is when they don't have any passion for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Something's weird.
why are you
Yeah,
here?
well, in our
I
business,
go-
we find those
I
kind of
go-
because we're all
I go-
kind of the
I go to
same.
movies, I watch TV, I play games, I hang out, I drink
Yeah,
beer.
it's
It's
like,
like,
I don't do any of that.
What do you do?
I play
Right.
shows and I mess with
I find
guitars.
those people, to me, are completely, I don't care what you're passionate about, but if someone comes in here and he wants to talk about like 19th century architecture.
Yeah, let's
but
do
this guy
it.
knows.
Right.
Yeah.
The 19th century, or someone comes in here and knows all about like art or something, or anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'll talk about music all
But
day
Danny
long.
Courtney, like the owner of
Yeah.
Chelsea, had that for a million things. Like
Yeah.
sometimes guys just like guitars. Danny had it for everything.
Yeah.
Anything. Moose heads.
Yeah.
Like crazy shit. You're like it made Chelsea into like a crazy junk store.
Yeah.
But he had that passion. Anything someone got into, he would read about it for weeks and then start buying things. Like he was passionate for literally
Yeah.
anything.
I mean, it
Yeah.
gives you focus in life.
But he was
Totally.
he was awesome. People would just go in there and talk to Danny because he would get into pens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he'd start buying pens, and then it would be on to the next thing, these lenticulars.
Oh, yeah, that
Then,
was
remember
fun.
that period? Then it was
Yeah.
Schwinn bicycles. The store's filled with Schwinn bicycles in the 70s. Surfboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny grew up in Queens. He
Totally.
never surfed in his entire life. Surfboards everywhere.
That's where I got it from you two guys, and then it's like, but then before that, I was working for Giorgio Gomowski, who had his own, you know, Giorgio.
The Giorgio sponsored the Trifles briefly.
That's-
So I got to meet Giorgio.
He was my
Yes.
first boss.
You remind me of the Yardbirds.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why Danny hired Cobra.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't Cobra yet. He's like, oh, he worked for Giorgio Gomowski. I was like,
Yeah.
Yardbirds guy?
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause
really?
We practiced in his space, and it's like where Jesse Malin was, who you guys
Oh
knew
boy, I got
forever.
Jesse stories.
Yeah.
I have
But
Jesse stories that are
Mojo just put up a
Yeah.
picture. He was your bus driver?
Yeah,
He was our van driver.
that's so funny.
I don't think he was even old enough to have a license.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. I don't think
That's
he
so
was
funny.
old.
You guys were in Europe someplace, right?
He had a license. He had a van. He drove us all through Canada once.
That's so funny.
And you know, I've slept in a bed with Jesse. Man.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
Yeah, that's how I.
Jesse's just one of the most dedicated cats I've ever met.
Yep.
And if he sees me, he's like, "Hey man, Pete, how you doing?" You know,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
lets a moment go by.
Yeah, it's cool cat.
You know,
You know,
he's
but-
been a pretty big rock star.
Yeah.
But he
No,
never
he's-
everyone he's ever
just
met is
doing
still
his
his
shit,
friend.
yeah.
You know? He oh Pete, here,
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a beer. You know, have this. Have
Totally.
that. You in my place. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's almost that old kind of.
It's an old New York
mafioso
thing.
Like, hey,
Come on.
you're
part of the family.
You're brother.
Right.
So I met him when I was 18, working at Chelsea, like, because he was in DGen practicing at Giorgio's space.
Yeah.
And then in high school, I had a band and got in there, and we were in there, and then Giorgio told me, because I was working for him for like a year, he's like, you need to go work at the guitar shop. You love guitars. And then met Jesse, and that's how.
Well, he called Danny or something.
Yeah, Danny was like, no, I can't hire you, but what do? You seem all right. I was like, oh, I work for Giorgio. He's
seem
like,
all right.
Gomowski?
Yeah.
He's like, if he comes in and says you're a good guy, I'll hire you.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And
George
then
Hitzik.
that was
Yeah.
it.
Giorgio Gomowski saw the Trifles in 1984.
Yeah.
And it was a band, there were two women in the band. It was a very flashy, we were not a great band technically, but we certainly had a vibe.
Did a show.
And people just were like, oh, this band is, people thought we were cool instantly. Before they heard the music, they thought we knew how to look.
Right.
And Giorgio saw us and got really excited. He tried to promote us a little bit.
Yeah.
We didn't end up signing anything with him because, first his rep was pretty shady. Second of all, he didn't seem like he was going anywhere. But it was cool. It was
so
for us,
cool.
as
It's still
me,
Giorgio
who was
Gromowski,
a lifetime Yardbirds freak.
Yeah.
Right.
The Yardbirds, a Giorgio Gromowski production.
Yeah.
Right.
No one has the balls to do that anymore.
Yeah,
It was
Right.
cool.
that is.
It's like Andrew Oldham trying to like plug the electric guitars into the wall socket.
Yeah.
He didn't even know what an amp was, but he owns the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. But the business is completely different now. The guitar business is different, and the music business is different. I actually feel bad these days when younger kids come in who are obsessed with the guitar, because at least when I was younger, there was this vision that whether or not you made it big, there's like a lifetime
Yes.
in guitars. That's different now. I think maybe, they're saying this whole pandemic thing is people are really turning back to playing guitar again. Fender had
Oh,
the
for
best
sure,
year they've
yeah.
ever had. So maybe like the new generation.
But it was always
they have
happening.
something to look
This is
forward
the
to.
busiest I've
No, I
ever
have a
been.
16-year-old kid I'm
Yeah.
teaching guitar. He's
Same
starting
here.
to work at my store. He's like 16. He's trying to learn all this. I'm teaching him Stormy Monday.
Yeah.
And he just wants to sound like Dwayne Allman. I'm like, all right, there's hope for the future. He wants, it just keeps regenerating because he's trying to learn the same songs I was learning when I was 16.
Sure.
So, and he's into guitars. He just got his first Les Paul.
Yeah.
I was working on a couple instruments last night and I left SNL on. My wife is away right now, so I can work on instruments in the kitchen. I don't know, I
Nice.
usually come down here to do it, but she's out on a set right now, so I'm like, well, I'll work on this bass over here, and I have this Lionel Healy flat top, so like the whole kitchen is a guitar shop. So I left SNL on, and Nick Jonas comes on, and the music, there's no guitars, it's all tracked, and I'm like, well, this is what's being fed to kids.
Right.
But then you meet the kids who become obsessed. There's enough groundswell of people who are just like, well, that's not.
But
I'm
they're
not
like-
interested in what
but I
my
like Black
generation
Sabbath.
is. It's become underground.
Yeah. I
But it's,
agree.
but they were
Which
all.
is it's got a cool vibe.
But it's
about it.
always
Yeah.
been that same thing.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever been
surge.
cooler than Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin.
The-
So
the-
like
the thing
kids
is-
will always
yeah.
want to play a whole lot of love.
The thing that kills the rock and roll thing to me, I'm sort of like, I don't subscribe to the rock and roll myth the way some people do. I was listening to Paul Whiteman Orchestra all week. I like a range of stuff, but when I have the moms coming in here who are making their son take like funk bass class, and the kid is obviously like,
Yeah.
this is
I
what's going
hate
to kill
funk
it.
bass.
Yep.
Because it's got to be what your parents don't.
Well, there's a lot of those parents who
it's
want to
gotta
live
be-
vicariously through the
Yeah,
kid,
exactly.
like
so when you
that.
have parents,
I
older
feel-
parents, forcing their kids to like rock and roll, that's what.
Then
Yeah.
they'll become lawyers.
They'll become lawyers. They'll turn off to it forever.
Well, that's what happens. Lawyers'
Yeah.
kids become guitar players, and guitar players' kids become lawyers. My father was a lawyer.
That's an excellent observation.
My father's
Yeah.
father was a lawyer, and look what happened. Because they wanted me to be a lawyer.
My whole family were
I was like, what's the polar opposite of lawyer?
Yeah.
Guitar guy. I'll take that.
My dad was all politics.
Yeah,
I'm
my
like,
father
I'm gonna
said,
go
look,
play
don't become a
guitar.
lawyer. It sucks. I'd have been like, dude, I really want to be a lawyer.
I cannot wait.
It sounds so excellent. But since he was like, you should really become a lawyer, I was like, guitar guy is my
Yeah.
choice. And one day, it's funny because we finally turned around and he said, like, you were right. I was like, no shit.
Yeah. I know.
I know that. I knew it then. But, what responsible father? Well, now they say, oh, pursue what you love. Back then they said, do not pursue what you love.
Yeah.
It will be a horrible accident. Pursue what you hate and make money.
Yeah. Well, the people who've spent their lives, we all meet a lot of people who spent their lives in the guitar business, and they come from all different backgrounds.
But it's a tribe.
Yeah, but
Like-
it becomes a tribe because you end up rejecting the conventional path.
That's what it was. When I first met Les, it was like an outlaw biker thing. Like,
Yeah.
Les was an outlaw. Like, he did not exist on paper.
Yeah.
Ever. He refused to.
Oh yeah.
He did not, there was not a single government document with his name on it. And he thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
You can't do that anymore.
I
unfortunately.
was
We've
once
lost-
like
we've
doing
lost
the
that
books.
element.
Like my first week there, I thought it'd be like a really good idea to keep track of the money. He walked in, he looked at it, he just ripped it up and threw it in the paper and said, don't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, don't write stuff down.
I met him in the early 80s when I started to learn there was a world beyond 48th Street, and he put an ad, and I love telling stuff like this to people who are internet era people. It's like, the what? It's like, well, the bylines.
Right.
Yeah.
So before there was an
Bylines.
internet, there was this cheap shit
Paper
newspaper called
internet.
The Byline.
Yeah.
And I would buy it every week and flip to the back, musical instruments.
Yeah.
And I bought a bunch of stuff, but that's how I discovered Guitar Loft, which is his place on 37th.
Right, I never saw that because it was before me.
And you told me that, so I wanted to put this down because, for future generations, what Guitar Loft was, where there were these two little buildings You know, they used to knock down whole swaths of a street. He was on 37th between 8th and 9th. So he was in this, it's not really a brownstone, it's like a 4-floor walk-up building with a staircase out front, but there are only 2 buildings, and the area around it looked like a London bomb site.
That's where he lived.
They knocked down everything in the areas,
Right.
and this building was leaning over slightly.
That's where he lived.
So you sort of walk in, and you had to go up to the top floors, and the whole thing, the stairs kind of go. But up there, there were parts and guitars and shit all over the place. And this is where he built the fake Discoverer bass, and he was building Flying V's. And I met him buying a refinished 57 Precision from him, because I was looking for a 50. That was the first 50s Precision I ever owned. And it was like $600. And they wanted like $800 or $900 on 48, if they even had something like that. But he had parts lying around. He was telling me about how he built stuff for John Entwistle. And he gave me, it didn't have a pick guard, it had the wrong pick guard. I said, I think I got a good one somewhere. And he pulled out a 52 Precision pick guard and just gave it to me. I still have that pick guard
That's
to this
awesome.
day. He and I had some problems later on, but early on, I gotta say, it was like, but it was like the outlaw biker thing. It was like being a junkie, but it wasn't junk. It was something else.
But it was something else, and then it was also junk.
But creeping up,
Let's begin the problem.
creeping up the rickety staircase to this place with this crazy guy with crazy hair, this big fat guy,
big
with crazy
Nicaraguan
hair.
guy. Well, he was like my uncle. Like he became family to me. Like he was more important to me than anyone else in my life. Like he gave me a job.
Yeah.
No one would give me a job. You know, like so I worked with him every day. He was like my uncle. I loved him. You know, like, and he taught me everything. Well, not everything I know, but he taught me a lot of shit. You know, which that I later taught to these guys. But
Yeah.
you know, and he was such a nice guy. He had some issues, for sure. But he had such a good big heart for people who had problems. Like anyone who walked into Chelsea with a hard luck story got $100. You know, like I was like, really, $100 for that crappy story? That was like a $20 story at best. It was like a bullshit story. I don't even really feel sorry for that guy. He'd be like, it didn't matter. As long as it was like a decent, like as long as you could present it, you got $100 from less. Like I was like, that story sucked. I can't believe you paid that guy for that. Like, but anyone who was down on their luck, he was there. That's what Chelsea Guitars was to him.
Well, a lot of the people, I mean, you know, it's funny, we were talking about all these stories have come and gone. A lot of the people who were in the guitar business in that era are either gone or have gotten out
They're
of it.
dead.
Along the way. You know, Skip Henderson has been in New Orleans working with kids for a long time. You know, I don't know if you ever knew Steve Milkathusian and Angela. He's out, John Sprung is out of the business. A lot of people who really started the vintage guitar business
Yeah, couldn't last or.
a lot of them, when big money came into it, I remember, you guys remember the
just get priced
Shinnery
out.
era?
Yeah.
When
Right.
money started, a lot of those guys who considered it like a tribal hobby, like
Right.
had that kind of vibe that you're talking about, when the moneyed collectors started invading the electric
business,
market,
yeah.
a lot of those guys got discussed. That was Skip's thing. He just peeled out when the lawyers started buying.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the money to him. It was about you had to be in the tribe.
Yeah,
And these people who weren't in the
Well, it
tribe.
changed. Like when you go to the New York
Like
Guitar
now
Show
you're buying
before
it.
this, when I first met Mojo, like that back then, it really was like an outlaw biker
Yeah.
thing. It was all cash.
Yeah.
Everyone came from their little towns and they were doing the guitar thing, you know, but it was about playing in a band,
It was about obsession.
you know,
obsession.
and doing
look,
this
this has the
thing.
dot over the
And like
eyes.
it's mostly
Right,
guys,
right.
it was guys who couldn't fit in anywhere else.
Yeah.
They just didn't fit anywhere else. There's no way less gonna fit in any place else.
Yeah.
It just, impossible. You know, like I didn't fit in anywhere else. I tried. It just didn't work. When I met Chelsea Guitars, like I found my groove.
You had to either,
You know, like-
when money came into the market, you had to either accommodate it or you.
Right,
or
at
you
Chelsea,
got it.
like, because
Yeah.
that happened when I was at Chelsea, and we just kind of like, all right, we could sell these for a lot of money, but if someone's a dick, we're still throwing them out of here.
Yeah.
You know, like, if someone's a cock, we're just throwing them out and treating them like shit.
I remember at the '89 guitar show, there was a guy that I knew who was actually working the door for Skip at the time, but he was a real proletarian rock dude, like played a Telecaster, you know, like this. And when he saw a Tele on a stand with a $1,000 price tag, he got so offended, like, I walked by and I wiped a booger on it.
Oh, Jesus.
Because it was like, he was so offended that somebody put a Telecaster up. for
wrong.
$1,000. I hate to think what like a $40,000
Hope I didn't buy that
Telecaster would.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind of
man.
reaction that would elicit?
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to segue back a little bit, because I guess I'm supposed to try to promote this place a little bit. I'm the world's worst.
You're allowed to. I know, I
I'm
suck
the
at it
world's
too.
worst
But this is
promoter.
promoting it.
Well, actually, we do need
Yeah.
to, well, let's do your segue, and then we need
What I
to
was gonna
segue yet
say is-
again.
you know, to me, the money a lot of people, oh, what's the most expensive guitar here?
Right,
Like,
people
why-
always ask that question.
and it's like, why do you
It's a
care?
stupid, what, you're gonna come back later and rob me?
That's the least. That's the,
Let me show you what to steal.
That's the least interesting question. You
I know, and I get asked all the time, what's the most expensive guitar in
You
your
get asked that all
shop?
the- but a lot
I don't
of-
fucking know off the top of my
If you're a
head.
deal, well, you know that's how they sell it to people who aren't interested in the subject.
Right, your
You know,
guitars are
Chris
expensive.
Mojo worked with some of these reality show producers, and they told nobody cares about the object; they care about the money. Because
Right.
that's what they think they can sell. But a lot of people do feel that way. It's all about they're looking, oh, how could this be worth this kind of money?
Right.
I mean,
That's really just a very surface
yeah,
part
I mean,
of
the
this.
shtick here is the thing is what it is.
Well, the most interesting thing about it is
The most-
people like you and people like Cobra and people like me have made a life out of this. With other people, everyone I know is in this business. You know, like when I found Chelsea, I really found my people. Before
Yeah.
that, you know, I played in bands, I knew musicians, but then you found out there was a whole culture of people like me who didn't fit in a business suit in an office someplace because they wouldn't talk about Peter Green all day. You know, like, and that's all they did at Chelsea Guitars, talk about Peter Green all day. I was like,
Gene Smith taught me all the music I know at Chelsea.
yeah,
He's like, oh, you should listen to Free.
yeah, we were playing some
Listen
song. It's
to
like that's
this.
not how you play that, because
Yeah.
I learned it from Paul Kossoff.
Okay, thank you.
Like, okay, you rule.
Yeah.
You know, like, but you know, like, and then you know, there is a whole world of people like us. Like Daniel started working at Chelsea when he was maybe 13 or 14. You were maybe 15.
Well,
Like,
yeah, right out of high school.
yeah, like, you know, people started. You know, I know Daniel since he's a little kid. I know Daniel's mother. She's my age. You know?
Most people who work in, I hate to call it the straight world, because the world is crookeder than it's ever been.
Well, people in the straight world could be 10 times crazier than people in
Yeah,
our
well, no,
world. They
well,
just don't look it.
But that's, what I was gonna say is there's this concept that you're normal or not normal. is
Right.
straight.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
a lot of people who kind of suppress what they really want to do and work a path, they're, you know, to me, they come in here and
They're way more dangerous.
they're way more dangerous.
Yeah,
Well, they
way
have
more.
money.
They
That's
scare
the
me.
difference. They have
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, because I got my rocks off. You know, they didn't.
Yeah, well, that's it. And
I did crazy shit.
you know, I think a lot of the reaction in the guitar world when lawyers and doctors and people who made a lot of money wanted to kind of relive their teenage dream came in was just kind of like, oh, you know, they're polluting our
Well,
little
good for
ocean
them.
here
You know, like, you know, they had a kid or whatever, they needed to make money. There's nothing wrong with any of that. You know, good for them. But don't fuck up our thing.
I'm in favor. We get people, some here are, you know, 50, 60 years old, come, I never played guitar. I'm like, you want to start?
Yeah, start now. It's fucking awesome.
It's you know, start, even if you only learn a C chord.
Who cares?
Learn it yourself.
Guitar's the best thing.
Exactly.
I
I was looking around my house and I go, what the fuck is cooler than guitars? Like, what could you fill your house with that's cooler than that?
We live in an observational culture, where we're trained to just stare at a screen all day. There's so much entertainment now. I've actually turned off, like, I really don't.
Yeah, we talked about that,
I don't
like-
want to see any drama.
Yeah.
You know, I want to.
There's
If I
enough.
want to watch something, it's like if it's like a documentary.
Yeah, I like
But I
documentaries
don't
and
need anyone
shit.
else's drama. I'd rather just sit and listen to records.
Yeah, me too. But I talk to my friends.
I got obsessive about, you know, I still have, before I was into guitars, I was in at the same time, before I had the money to buy guitars, I was buying records.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I still
Love
have thousands of pieces of.
Yeah, I have all my records.
So
Yeah.
in my old age now, I'm getting back to like.
I still have the whole thing.
Haven't,
Yeah.
listened, haven't listened to Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Dick, and Nick and Tick in about 30 years. Let's put that on. It's like, oh, these are great bad records. I love it.
So if you don't mind if we
Really
segue
horrendous
yet
bass.
again, because Josh brought a really cool guitar project we've been working on, and so did Cobra. So if we could, and then we'll get back to Retrofret, of course, because we're still, well, these podcasts always need a part 2 and a part 3, because there's a million things we haven't talked
Yeah.
about that we will have to. But, here, you hold this. This looks awesome. I'm seeing this for the first time.
Wow.
And you are too.
That's very nice.
So this is one of our latest projects. This was a Les Paul Special. Like just
A real one?
whatever, 90s Les Paul Special. With a
Not real if
broken
it's
neck
90s.
that I bought.
Yeah.
No, not really.
90s.
But, oh,
could
you guys should
sacrifice
see
90s.
this.
Yeah.
Can you go in on that? This looks amazing. This one really rather check.
That makes
So,
me play. Oh well.
I know, right? Or it's very Pearly Gates-ish.
Yeah.
So what I did is sent it to Brian Monty, who is a guitar wizard in Canada, and he has been for a million years. He's 1,000,000 years old.
Yeah.
A million and more.
No, but I met him at Chelsea like years and years ago. He's he's an older fella. He's
even made my first
killing.
guitars.
Right. He's just killing dude. I've known him forever. He builds guitars, killing blues guitar player, awesome dude. So he's up like outside of Montreal. So he's done this job a bunch of times for me over the years and other people, not just for me. But he put a maple top on it. It was a special, and he could retop a regular Les Paul if it's got a stupid looking top. He could always, and he put a new neck on it.
Cool.
Because the neck was garbage anyway. And then he sent it to Josh for the finish. So Josh did this finish.
Yeah, so finished it, aged it, assembled it, and the thing is really a great guitar.
Yeah, this one's super weather checked. Some of these weather check more than others. This one's really doing that thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Wanna take a look?
Yeah.
the lacquer can sometimes have its own life.
That one's super weather checked. But it sounds like that, doesn't it? Even acoustically, that guitar sounds like a real Les Paul. I love that album. Nice.
I talk to God, I know He don't
You're doing good,
understand. He
old
says, stick by me, I'll be your guiding hand. But don't ask me what I think of you, I might not give the answer that you want me to. Oh, God. That is my favorite piece of philosophy ever from any human being. Socrates, don't ask me what I think of you, I might not give the answer that you want me to.
My legs are skinny. And
Yeah, this has got that vibe.
but that guitar acoustically has that thing.
Well, that's an acoustic there.
That whole record is brilliant. So good.
Yeah, it's a pretty beast.
Very
When
nice.
the day goes to sleep, the blue moon looks. The night is so black, the darkness cooks.
What a line that is.
Yeah, this has that vibe, man. I
Totally.
just looked at it and went, oh, that's Peter Green. You gotta
Yeah.
flip this sucker around.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's got the, the way the top
We've
is.
done the Peter Green guitar a few times for customers.
I touched the real one.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was on a stand at a.
Just
Oh, that's right. I was at a guitar show. I was there.
I will say this, my fetishes are so different from the average guitar player.
Sure.
Most of the music that a lot of guitar fans love means nothing to me, and I'm not going to go. You get so much bad mail if I tell you all the people that I'm not inspired by. Peter Green is to me one of the absolute.
Love Peter Green. But that's
There's no one who's done what he did the way he did it.
no, even that last album, like with the classical guitar bits in it, like no one was anywhere near what he was doing. And Danny Kerwin was a hell of a guitar player too.
Cool.
But you really know all that stuff. That's such an amazing record.
I can listen. There's records I can listen to. I was going to make a list for the kids here. Records I can listen to 100 times over, never get bored.
Yeah, then play on.
And then Play On is one of them.
Ugh.
And there's a great compilation. There's a couple great compilations from that era.
Oh, his vaudeville years and all that stuff.
Yeah, this has got that vibe, man. I could do.
Yeah, Danny at Chelsea like
Yeah, it's nice.
was a Peter Green freak.
Yeah, when I walked in there one day, we were talking about it, and he went, don't go see him now. Whatever
Yeah.
you do, don't go see
Yeah,
him.
those guys all went one night.
I know you want
He
to see
came
him.
back so
I know
depressed.
you want to see him, but you don't go.
Yeah,
He goes, it's like seeing your old girlfriend from 30 years ago and what she looks like now. Don't go.
Yeah, I remember them going to Tramps or something,
Yeah.
and he came back. He was depressed for days.
Tramps, that was around the corner from Georgia.
Yeah, but he was like so bummed
Just gotta
out.
keep
Like we went to see John Fahey once. Me and Bobby Ross went to see John Fahey, and he was so bad, and his delay wasn't working, and it was in Tramps. I was like, Bobby, you gotta go help him. So Bobby literally
He's
just walked
dying
up on
out
the
there.
stage. No one was helping him. Bobby just literally walked up onto the stage and fixed it for him. I was like, the battery's dead in his pedal. Like, and he was just sitting there. It was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
but
that's-
I love John Fahey. I thought I was going to go see Blind Joe Deaf. I didn't realize it was 30 years later, and he'd been drinking every day since then.
Yeah.
And now he couldn't play at all. And it was funny because I went to Barnes & Noble around the corner just to kill some time before the show. I didn't realize he was the guy standing next to me also killing time reading a magazine. He was like 100 pounds heavier than the picture I saw. So the drunk guy next to me at the Barnes & Noble was John Fahey.
Wow.
I mean, they do say never meet your idols.
Yeah.
I've actually been incredibly lucky.
What was
to-
that? It's my earring.
It just went under the couch. I've actually gotten to play with a couple guys whose records meant a lot to me, and generally they've been really just really incredibly cool people. I got to play with Mark Lindsay. Mark Lindsay is one of the coolest cats I've ever met.
Wow.
Because he didn't get screwed in the 60s the way most of them did.
Right.
He owned his publishing. Terry
Thank
Melcher
you.
took care of him. He owned his publishing and
But I
everything.
met so many people that I loved. They're
You know,
playing
yeah.
at Chelsea,
Hilton was like
and no one was ever not as cool as I thought they were
I
going
used to play with Roy Loney, and Roy was such a gentleman. I mean, he was an absolute drunk, but he was the sweetest guy. He stayed with me a couple of times, and my mom had passed away and left her bar behind. And Roy's like, "Oh, is this?" I said, "Right, take whatever you want."
Yeah.
My mom, and he would drink a bottle of vodka a night, and
Wow.
and he would eruditely discuss film. Wheeler and Woolsey. He introduced me to the silent, early sound film comics. Wheeler and
my
Woolsey.
God.
A big obsession of Roy.
Wow.
But the guy who cut Teenage Head, we would sit and discuss acting from the 1920s and stuff. It was just kind of amazing. But so I've had pretty good luck. But I know occasionally you do see someone.
Right, you meet people all the time. Like at Chelsea, I met just about everyone who I liked their playing at one point or another.
Did you ever hear about? I used to do these shows called the Cave Stomps. And basically what they were is they would bring back 60s garage bands, they reunite them as much as possible. And I ended up being the ringer in a bunch of bands. So for some reason it was always the bass player who was gone. The standout was like, we had 3 bass players. One's dead, one's crazy, one's missing. So often, so I ended up, I still am
You had to fill in a lot.
I'm officially the bass player in the Blues Magoos if they ever do. They're in their most of them are in their mid-70s
Be a good
now.
t-shirt.
So
Official bass player.
like-
Blues.
Yeah, he's got a tattoo that says that.
So, unlikely but possible. But you guys ever hear about the famous Shadows of Night debacle? Speaking of never meet your idols. So the Shadows of Night,
No.
you remember the Shadows of Night, They do this version of Gloria where the girl never makes it up to the room. So American...
What?
I'm serious. Here's a bit of music history for you young fellas here. So, in the demo version of Gloria, the girl makes it, she comes in my room.
Yeah.
Make her feel all right. The Shadows of Night were savvy enough, these kids were 16, 17 year olds, savvy enough to realize that American radio
It's too.
Wouldn't
The
play that.
standards, that's too
Yeah.
risque.
So the girl in the Shadows of Night song knocks upon my window. That's as far as she gets. So their version got played on the radio, and
clean
they had the
version.
top 10 hit with it.
Wow.
They never got to have sex with
And
Gloria.
they made
Yeah.
2 really good albums and one really shitty one. But when they started doing the Cave Stomp shows in the 90s, they were the first bands. They were still an active band. But John Weiss, the promoter, made the mistake of not vetting them first.
Oh no.
So they show up, and remember, these guys, their last hit record was in 1966. This is 1998. So
Wow.
they show up,
Like,
and the only guy left is Jim Sones, the lead singer, and he's old, he's pretty porky, he's wearing like a leather vest open to the waist,
nice.
belly's hanging out.
Oh,
And he got like 3 dudes who are sort of, you could tell they're basically in Van Halen cover bands as
Yeah.
their day jobs. And they get on stage, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw the Trogs. Reg Presley, the Trogs, got portly and cheesy, but it worked for the Trogs.
Right.
And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
always,
They were a dirty band.
they always sounded like the Trogs.
Right.
But these guys came up and it was like, all the kind of like,
oh Jesus.
and I've never seen a
Wow.
collective audience of like 500-600 people.
Just mortified.
And everyone was slack-jawed, staring at
It's just, what is happening?
what?
Total
And
bemusement.
Sons was really pissed off because he was used to the club people, and it's like this is, nobody told him this is a specialized audience.
Right.
So that was the most famous, like, don't meet, and he was a real dick to everyone. The most famous don't meet your idols thing. A couple of the other Cave Stomp people turned out that way.
Well, why don't you grab your guitar because we are coming near the end of our
This is
time.
fun, I like this guitar.
And then
That guitar sounds
I'm
really
not a
good.
Les Paul guy. I don't relate to Les Pauls. but
it's
this
funny.
has a good- this has
I
a good
spend
vibe.
most of my time with Les Pauls, and neither am I.
I know, it's funny. You work on more Les Pauls than most people.
I know.
You don't even own a Les Paul.
I don't own one. I think they're gorgeous. They're just not for me.
That's a really good finish, though.
Yeah, I've never owned. Here's a weird thing. I'm the vintage guitar guy.
Hand with it.
I've never owned a Stratocaster.
Me neither.
Is that right?
I haven't either.
I've never owned a.
That's right. I did when I was young.
Yeah, I've never owned a 335.
I owned one.
I've many,
I've
many
owned
times.
330s.
Or my gold one.
I've owned several Les Paul specials and a custom, but I've never owned a standard. Like the stuff that I like.
Wanna
is
buy
just,
this one?
More oddball.
You can end that right now.
You know my Gibson saw body is Firebirds.
I love
Firebird.
Firebirds. I
have 2.
love
I have
Firebirds.
2 Firebirds.
I have 2 Firebirds.
Oh man, this is really neat. That
This
disc
is
is
the
great.
evolution of our Golden Road model, which is yet another Golden Road model, but this one's different.
Yeah, this one I wanted.
I love the arm.
But doesn't this
like
make
the-
sense? It's
the
a
dip
carb,
and the
but then
drop.
right where your arm would go,
Well, no, it
there's
makes-
nothing hurty there.
It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Remember
yeah,
we used to always
great.
have that rash on
Oh
our
my god,
arms?
I always had it.
Mine
I
was
still have
permanent.
it.
Finally, so do I. That's weird.
Yeah.
We called it rock rash.
Yeah.
Because the
both come from
binding on
gigs.
this, you'd play gigs every night. This was always all ripped up.
Yeah, it would suck.
Yeah. And
Wow.
mine was scarred. Hey, look, it's still discolored.
Yeah, mine was too.
That's
Funny.
awesome.
I know, it's good to have.
Yeah, it's like try it works.
It's still there.
You're still there too. What is wrong with us?
Yeah, we rocked.
But you won't get it from this guitar.
No, so
See, that's smart.
That is smart.
They should have did that on these. Like your arm's gonna be right here.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't have to have these. I wouldn't be disfigured now. I'm not an animal.
You wouldn't be the horrifying freak you
Yeah,
are
exactly.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
It's good of
Could
us to
have had a
tolerate.
girlfriend at some point.
That's the thing. As like a musician, as a builder, I know that, so I do that.
Right, but why didn't anybody figure this out?
Because they weren't playing.
That's a good point.
Leo Fender wasn't a guitar player.
That's a good point.
I swear,
Les Paul was.
many
Yes,
of the
but
great
he didn't
50s and
make
60s guitars, nobody tried them before they went on stage.
That's true,
All
for
the
sure.
Nationals and Supros,
Yeah, your hands would mash into
nobody
things.
in those companies play tested those.
Yeah.
Because if they had, they would have figured out quickly you need more than 2 bolts to hold the
Yeah.
neck on. The frets are done wrong.
Yeah.
You got to
Right.
make the truss right.
There's a ton of knobs in the way.
That was the thing
The
with Leo
knobs are in the
Fender,
wrong
though.
spot,
He
yeah.
had people try that.
That's
Exactly.
why-
He had a lot of good friends.
The
Yeah.
reason the Telly and the Strat and the Precision are what they are is because he knew
Country
what
western
he didn't
guy.
know.
Totally.
Yeah.
He knew,
Right.
hey, what do you think of this? And he
Yep.
handed
Yeah,
it
yeah.
to every player, and then, well, I like this, I don't like
That's why the
that.
Telly
Yeah.
was such a perfect
You know.
guitar. Like, it was the first guitar. He could have just stopped there, and guitars would have never got any better
Yeah.
than
He hit it
that.
out of the park on
The first
shot.
time, and then he
Yeah.
made a P bass.
I
Pretty
mean,
fucking good.
Can you think of another industry where that's been the case? That basically the first of its kind is still
It's by
the one
far
that's
the best.
the paramount. I mean, imagine if we were all
bowling ball.
excited to get on the
first bowling ball was
you
the
know,
best one ever, yeah.
the right flyer. you
Right,
know,
the
it's
first
like-
plane was the best plane ever.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to go on my 12-second flight.
Yeah. Yeah, we can get to that part of Brooklyn.
Exactly. It'll
Yeah.
be incredible.
Yeah, we'll see you when you land, because you can't go further than I
I
can
mean,
see.
we'll literally see you.
Exactly.
Right, like that thing.
I would go.
Right, that's
now.
perfect.
You guys want to do a session? You want to do a gig? I'll go
Boom.
on stage with this bass. This is a 1953 Precision. It's identical to a November 51.
Work every
There's
time.
nothing on this bass that needs to be changed. Now, there's things they learn later on,
Yeah.
but there's nothing that doesn't work.
No,
I could
exactly.
play your whole.
you could
gig
play
fully
rock on
functional.
that. You could play a Metallica
Like
song
jazz.
on
It
it.
would sound better than 98% of the other bass guitars.
Yeah.
I would take this over anything with active electronics. I would
Yep.
take this
Oh,
over
yeah.
anything with Binglewood.
It's almost a
Yep.
bigger
Anything
achievement than the
Fender,
guitar.
It is a big,
Totally.
this is,
Because there was
I'm gonna
no-
go on record. It's
There was
a
no
way
bass
bigger
guitar. He invented bass guitar. Like
Exactly.
You know, like
Guitars
other guys were
everywhere.
doing electric guitars. He killed it with the Telecaster, but no one was doing this. Like there were other things like it, but no one came up with that.
And
You know,
there was
like
really nobody to even field test it. They gave
Yeah.
it.
no,
they
no one knew how
gave
to play it.
nobody knew what to do with it. And one of the questions I used to get asked a lot, and nobody's ever figured out the exact answer, is what's the first record with electric bass on it?
It's a good question. Who knows?
There's a bunch of possibilities. The first record with a Fender bass on
Is
it,
it Elvis?
no, the first record with a Fender bass on it would be one of the early Lionel Hampton sides from 1953 or 54.
Huh.
Then the bass player would be Monk Montgomery.
Wow.
The problem is that they recorded like this. This has the mute still on, so listen.
Yeah.
It still sounds like an upright.
Right.
Totally.
So you would have to get the 78 masters and really listen to figure out when he stopped bringing his upright to the session.
Yep.
He was touring with the Precision in 53.
Right.
So
Easier to tour
almost
with.
certainly
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the first records.
Get through a door with it.
And Labella was making those
string
first Fender flat wounds.
Yeah. If you guys ever find the original Fender flat rounds, and they have, instead of a ball end, it's a brass cup that fits right in there,
No
I'll
way.
buy them from you. I've never seen
It fits
that.
right in the grommets there.
If you ever see a set of
They-
those floating around anywhere.
Pretty sure that they made those.
They did, well, that's
yeah.
what this bass came with.
Totally.
So they fit right in the grommet
It
holes.
fit right in
Yeah.
the grommet. It's a brass plug that fits right in
I mean,
there.
How
it's
interesting.
almost like the early bullets, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever find a set of those flats, I'll buy them.
I'll ask
I'll
her.
put them on my 52 Precision, and that bass will be done for life.
So we're actually putting together, because there's so much history, but we're putting together in the shop
Oh,
Labella
those are the nicest ones so far.
museum. Because they have all of their old original toolings and
Yeah.
everything still in the factory. You know, over
Yeah.
100 years in New York.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric's got such an interesting story.
I don't want to use the word collect because I don't look for them, but if I find them, I buy them. I buy the old 50s and 60s labella bass strings in the glassine pouches. And the thing that I love about those, first of all, they're the best bass strings ever made.
Yeah.
Second of all, the core wire around them is so thick you can't really bend it, and that's the secret to the sound. And nobody really makes strings
You
like
get the
that.
snap.
But it has to be designed to fit the bass. So those old envelopes, actually, I'll bring one down.
It
if you want
says
a photo
the
of it.
bass that's on it.
And at first it was like for Fender, for Gibson, for K.
Yeah.
And that's how you can tell it's from the 50s.
And then
there are only
Hofner.
three, and then it's like, oh, other people start making basses. And it must have driven them nuts, because by the mid-60s, the guy at the factory packing the strings has
my
to
God.
hand check the box.
Yep.
So one of the rarest sets in the world, I have one that says 4 Ampeg.
That's
Because
awesome.
those are extra length, those are 42
Right, that thing was
inch
long,
wide.
right.
That's awesome.
So, but I collect, if you ever find a nice set of those strings, I
Yeah.
collect those, like, and the sad thing is, I feel bad now taking them out of the pouch and putting them on a bass. But I
But you
have-
might as well. Yeah, you might as well
I
at
own
this point.
2 64 Fender basses, each with.
As long as you put it on the right bass.
Yeah, don't put it on
You
a-
put it on the wrong bass, you'll break
You're
it.
not gonna put it on like a
I'm gonna-
Fodera.
Charbel.
I'm breaking into your moment here, but I'll tell you can cut this out. You can cut it out. Here's a LaBelle story. So you know Vincent Bell passed away
Yes.
last year. I went to Vincent Bell's house in the sale, and most of it, by the time I got in, because you had to be local to get
Yeah.
on the list, most of the good stuff had been taken, but there was a box about the size of this couch of old guitar strings on the floor.
Wow.
And I was like, must be something cool. So I pulled out Labella for Dan Electro, E, and I went, that's kind of cool. And then I found the A. And going through 1,000 strings, I found a complete set of Labella flat ones for Dan Electro 6-string
That's
bass
awesome.
that had been Vincent Bell's that he never used, so I put them on my Longhorn 6-string.
Perfect.
So my Longhorn 6-string has
Vinnie Bell's
That's
Vinnie
strings.
Bell's
That they probably custom made for him that he ordered. That's awesome. Yeah.
No, this
Yeah,
If I
guitar
go to
does
play my
sound.
Longhorn,
Isn't that nice?
it's got original Labellas and
Yeah,
they
this is
belong
the
to
nicest
Vinnie
one.
That's
Bell.
awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's Eric's birthday today.
Oh,
is
happy
it?
birthday,
Happy
Eric.
birthday, Eric. Hope you're feeling better, buddy.
Yeah, this one's very cool.
So yeah, so this one I wanted to, as this is like my D'Angelico Paul Bigsby braid.
It's a Midas.
Yeah, just like the
thing.
skinny waist, but then as curved as you can. And this maple is actually from Greenwood Cemetery, from a fallen maple tree.
Man, you've really been drawing a lot of maple from there.
Yeah, we got a big slab.
Big
of it.
cemetery.
And then this one, since I'm such a vintage freak, like we all are, this is going to be a gold top. And what's the tell on a gold top is the center line. It's never straight. So I crooked it. I was like, you know what? Let me just. Doug will be into this. Let me move it.
Well, the
over.
Golden Road guitars were supposed to be gold.
Yeah,
the
but
first
the
one,
first one-
but the first one was so flamey. We're like, you
Yeah,
can't
you
paint
can't
over a
hide it.
flamey top.
Yep.
So I have that guitar. It's my
Yeah.
guitar. But so like this one will be gold.
Yeah.
But and then we're gonna do a Black Beauty one after this
Exactly.
because Walter, I have a set of pickups that Seymour Duncan made for Walter, like big staple pickups. Mm-hmm. So we'll build a guitar around those because Night
Yeah.
Bob gave them to me. So we'll build that guitar around those. But so this is the second Golden Road guitar.
Yeah. And then with the neck, with your other one, this is rosewood from the Martin factory that they sold off because it was too red and too,
Had a big stripe
stripy.
down it, yeah.
And so this is the same fingerboard as yours. Also came off the same piece of wood and the same mahogany. But yeah,
That's
It'll
going to
be
be
fun.
great.
yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Are you going to do a dark back?
It's gonna be all gold,
Oh,
but it's
all
gonna
gold.
have a lot
Okay.
of stingers on it.
Yeah, that's our
Many
yeah.
stingers as can fit possible.
Yeah. How many stickers are on mine? I think there's like
6.
6 stingers on mine. We have to go for 7
Yeah.
stingers.
Yeah, I even fit a stinger here.
Yeah, because I was out at Lark Street Music and I was looking at a
The Stromberg.
Stromberg and I was like, side stinger.
Yeah.
I called Cobra and I was like, dude, side stingers. That
I'm on it.
was a nice guitar.
Yeah,
That was like the
awesome.
Super 400 thing. What do they call it? A Master 400 or something?
Yeah,
That's a big guitar.
that's a big one. You're New Yorkers, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So,
Stupid
so at this
Boston.
point, we should probably begin to wrap up. So, Peter,
I'm back. In honor of George Ogorski and the short scale bass.
Yeah, right.
I love that.
And George He's like, I wouldn't play it like that.
That's the kind of stuff I learned to play when I was 16.
Yeah.
That's why modern instruments and modern music have never interested me. It's not
Right?
as cool as the
No.
Yardbirds.
Oh, the Yardbirds are so cool.
They
Don't
just
know
had it
where to
all.
run to, don't know where to hide. And I saw the revived Yardbirds play, and I gotta say, I've never promoted myself as a player or anything anyway. Like, you like what I do? Yeah, I'll play on your record. But I saw the Yardbirds and I went, same guy's playing bass and singing lead, and I could do both of those better than him.
Yeah.
Well, who was in it at that point?
I'm not gonna name names because
Nobody original.
No, it's two. The Yardbirds at that point was two original members. It was Chris Drea, and it was Jim McCarty on drums.
Right.
They had Jippy Mayo, who's wonderful on guitar.
Yeah,
He
right.
did a great Jeff Becker version. There's a modern Yardbirds out there now who are a good Yardbirds cover band
Right.
with Jim McCarty sitting in on drums.
Yeah.
And they do a good. I actually played on a bill with them not that long ago. They do a good show.
Nice.
But it's a Yardbirds cover band. And
Right.
Johnny A is playing guitar now, and he's good. I thought Jippy Mayo passed away. He's not around anymore.
Yeah.
But he was really good. He kind of had the madness. To get the Beck thing, it's more the attitude. You
It's
gotta
all
you gotta give
attitude,
the
right?
no, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Hit the,
Yeah.
And you should play a damn Telecaster, not a Les Paul. Sorry, Les Pauls.
Well, they didn't play Les Pauls.
Well, he
But-
did later on, but
Right,
the
but
best
not
stuff is on the
in that.
the best stuff's on the Esquire,
Yeah.
on the Duncan Esquire.
Exactly.
Yep.
I met Seymour Duncan once because he saw me and Chris standing with our Beatle boots, and we looked at the Yardbirds, and he knew that we'd want to hear the story of how John gave him that Esquire. So he came right up.
You
and
guys
told
wanna
me,
hear a
You
story,
guys
yeah.
want to hear this story?
That's all you're
Yes, we do,
purchasing.
sir.
I want to tell it to everyone.
Yeah, well, this was 35 years ago, but
That's awesome.
I
You
don't
still
know.
telling that
Yeah.
story every day?
yeah, well, it's a good story.
Oh, that's a great story.
If you had the Yardbirds Esquire, you probably want to tell that story.
Absolutely.
So I guess we'll start to wrap up. Anything more you'd like to say about Retrofret?
Well, I would like to say that, we have this, I think, hopefully we have a good reputation
You have a great
because we really love every guitar that comes in here. And again, guitars will walk in that we don't love and we go, you know what? This should be somewhere else. We actually will turn down stuff. So if we take a guitar in, it may not be the
Yeah, you
greatest
guys have
instrument
sent me
ever.
stuff.
I buy a lot of that shit.
They can't all be the best guitar ever, but we try to make sure it's the best it can be for
Right.
itself. Like, how good can this Supro be? How good can this
Totally.
Kalamazoo be? How can we make this as good as it can get? And we feel like we're doing puppy adoptions.
That's the way I look at it. I always look at it as it's an adoption agency.
It's an adoption agency.
Yeah.
It really is. And you got to pay you got to pay the fee to get in. But we try to put a lot of effort into making them as good as
good
and
fit.
as original as they can be. We
Yeah.
don't change anything unless it has to be changed. We don't refret something. If the frets are shot,
Totally.
we refret it.
Right.
We try to make it as nice as it gets. And it's kind of like, I feel like it kind of sucks to say it, but I feel like I'm here more for the instruments than for people in a weird way.
That happens.
That's why we're all here.
Business is also, we're all about people and customer service. It's like, I feel like
It's the guitars.
I feel like, at least personally, I'm kind of here to shepherd these guitars.
To
and
nice people,
and,
right.
and to good people. When the person comes in who's like the right person,
And they're
you're
cool,
like,
yeah.
You're the right person.
Yeah,
You're the
yeah.
one who this,
Right.
and that's kind of the vibe that we try to go for. And
You've
we-
directed
we-
it to a
yeah.
safe harbor.
And we really like, one of the things I like doing is talking to younger people and kids and trying to get, because you go on YouTube and you watch videos and you do tutorials, but a lot of people don't, I think, have the historical background. Why is this like this? Why is
Yeah.
this
Right.
guitar this way?
That's what you miss out
And I
on.
like to talk to especially younger people, but I've had people older than me who ask me, how come they did this on this thing?
Right,
Totally.
And I like to help people figure out what's in their brain, the sound that's in their brain, especially if it's an older sound. Like, how can you make that, how can you manifest that for yourself and turn it into something you can use?
Right.
Kind of thing. And we don't really do pedals and stuff here, as you might have noticed.
I don't either.
A lot of stores make their living.
Yeah,
We try to
I don't do
educate people as to
pedals.
what the guitar itself
Pedals are
sounds
cool,
like.
but I don't have a passion
If you
for
want to
them.
dress it up later, that's
Right.
fine.
I just
We're-
personally don't
we're-
use them.
Yeah. I've
So-
never used a damn pedal in my
Yeah,
life.
it's just not a passion. I have a tube screamer, and that's what I use. But I don't have a If I loved pedals, I would sell pedals.
Yeah, well, that's
But-
it. That's exactly it. Don't get the nail on the head there.
But some people do have a
It's
passion
not-
for
it's
it.
not what we love.
It just
So
I don't love
yeah.
it, so I don't really want to spend my time talking to guys about
Right.
it because it's not what I enjoy spending my time talking about.
Yeah, we
You know,
love vintage amps.
I like guitars and
old
amps.
guitars.
And the
that's-
cable.
That's the same
Gotta
thing.
have a
And the
cable.
Yeah, what do
Cable's
you use? I use a cable.
a cable
I
in
actually
between
got-
them.
I personally have my if I ever gig again, my rig is whatever guitar I have that night. My Brown
The amp
Deluxe.
over there. And that came over there.
Deluxe, and I used a tube Echoplex. And I would play without the amp, with the tube Echoplex plugged into the PA. I've done that.
Right.
Because to me, the tube
Yeah, it's a
Echoplex
preamp.
it's a preamp. That's the killer.
Yeah, I
piece
like
of
tube
gear right
reverb.
there.
I like to have those Fender reverbs.
Actually, I was on a
60s.
bill with a guy I've known for like 35 years, a couple years ago. He's like, man, you really should have an overdrive pedal to do this. I'm like, no.
Just turn the amp up.
Yeah.
You're just turning your ass to the audience to turn the amp up. I'm like, yeah, that's the.
So what? Hendrix did that.
Way
Yeah,
cooler.
that's the way cooler way to do it.
Yeah.
So the whole, I mean, we have a bunch of different people who work here, but we all sort of have the same philosophy. Like the guitar, the object has a magic about it. It's about helping, finding the way that magic translates to someone. It gets them as excited as we are.
No doubt. Yeah, so I don't like to sell good. That's why, like when I did Mountain Cat, I was like, I'm just going to do it by appointment and only deal with people I want to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, because I dealt with a lot of people I didn't want to deal with over the years, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was like, I'm just going to deal with people I like. I don't know how that'll work out, but it'll just have to work out. And there's only one guy in the entire time I've been doing it, 11 years, that I just like, I was on the phone with him and he was just, everything was like, well, what if this is wrong? Well, what if that? And after a while I was like, dude, you know what? Why don't you just like, because he was in California, it was an amp and I'd have to ship it to him. And I was like, why don't you just buy it locally? Like, why are we even having this discussion? So I was like, you know, I'd prefer to just, you know, not do this.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you telling me you're not going to sell me this amp? I was like,
Yes.
yeah.
That is.
Well, then you're an
yes.
asshole. I was like, well, you just proved my point.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like that's exactly why I wouldn't.
why I
So,
wouldn't.
yeah. Now I'm an asshole. Like I was like, just buy it in California. What, you're so worried about shipping the amp? Why ship it? You know?
There are people who were looking for problems.
Yeah.
Right. That's all he was doing is look. What if it gets here and it's making a buzzing noise?
I sold,
buzzing noise?
I sold a 65 Precision to a guy in California who, and even Steve, watching the interaction, going, "You sure you want to sell to this guy?"
Right. And you're like,
And
oh, it'll
I
be
was in
okay.
the middle of the deal, so I went through with it. But he was right because the guy was just looking, and he got it, and he was screaming.
buzzing right here.
Screaming at me on the telephone because he took the cover off here. And the fade of the finish, of course, now the cover's been on since 1965, so the finish is faded. Somebody sprayed paint under the bridge cover. It's like,
Because it's a different
no.
color.
And I sent him pictures of what a fender, and then he's like, oh, and there's this thing on the back. I took it to this guy, and he says, it has to be overspray. What had happened is the guy who shot, and this is 65, the biggest year of the guitar boom. You know how many Fender Precisions
Yeah,
they
yeah,
made?
yeah, yeah.
Probably 5,000, 6,000. The guy with the spray gun went around the edge, and as he hit here, instead of cutting the gun right here, he let it piffle out.
Yeah.
So there's this little spot
Oy.
under the clear coat. But this, oh no, it's been oversprayed. This bass isn't original. You told me it was all. I'm just like,
Oy.
just send it.
That's
Yeah,
how I do.
just send it back.
I have 100% money back guarantee. You don't have to tell me why you're sending it back.
Yeah.
I'd rather not know.
Recently, we've had a spate of people obsessed with they take a digital caliper to the nut. And if it's a millimeter, because the scale that we use has increments. It's like an inch scale. So say 1 5/8, 1 11/16. Oh, you said it was 113 millimeters. It's 112. I'm sending the guitar back.
Oh, God, thank
we
God.
had 2 of those in the past
I was
month.
doing measurements one day, and Josh goes, take the measurement on this. So I go, oh, it's this. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, take a video of you doing the measurement. So I'm doing it, and he's like,
You have the
dude, you have to
strings
take the strings off. And I was like, what? I was like, no wonder my measurements are all wrong. And I was doing this for quite a while.
This is a new.
He's like, no, that's not how you do that.
Back
I
in
was like, what do you mean?
awesome.
I have to take the strings off? I'm not doing that.
in the real vintage era of 30 years ago, nobody ever asked about
No.
neck.
I remember-
Now everyone wants to know the neck depth at the front.
Yeah, I'm like, the
But
what
But all
now?
these modern manufacturers.
That's a good thing, though. That's good.
It is good in some ways, 'cause I'll
here's
say-
why that's good.
Right.
Because if you were to describe this is a big
a
V
big-ass neck.
big soft V neck. Okay, well, what does that mean? That doesn't
Right.
mean shit. Big doesn't mean
Right.
anything. Neither does
Right.
medium, chunky.
Well,
that doesn't mean
I have
anything.
Josh redo people's necks all the time, so I'll be like, just send him your measurements. On that level, it's perfect because if I send him the
Absolutely.
measurements
Yep.
and this is the measurements,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
should like it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's good. But if there's some guy measuring it with the strings on it, like me, it's gonna come out all fucked up. So don't send me your guitars to measure shit. I will fuck that up.
I just need to say that specifically, like within the range of medium this person's medium is quite different from that.
That was the
person's.
olden way to do it. Like,
Yeah.
But now everyone has a calipers.
Yeah,
You know,
which is great. I really favor.
But you got to learn how to use one.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other cats out there. I was like, well, why should I take the strings off? That's inconvenient. Like, I'm sure it's fine.
Want to know the whole?
Because Josh was like, wait a sec.
That's
Can you
fun.
take a picture of you taking that measurement?
It is a pretty. Oh.
Yeah, this one came out really good.
Yeah,
It looks kind of like the Mick Taylor one. Faded to a color.
Yeah,
like
fair
this,
enough.
Like really.
Sorry.
Like,
I mean, I
You
know
need a
that
big
seems like I'm
scale.
patting myself on the back.
No, this one's
it's
checked
just
in that.
nice light to see it here.
no, this is just.
I was just gonna say,
This is
put
what
a
it
Bixby
means.
on
Oh,
it.
that'd be
That's like
yeah.
Put a Bixby on it.
Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
sweet.
That'll be my next tattoo. Put a Bixby on it.
Yeah, let's just put a Bixby on your arm. Yeah. Doesn't someone that we know have that?
I don't know. They would be my friend.
Yeah. No, there was this guy, Bill Durkin, who used to hang out at Chelsea, who was really involved in Heritage guitars back when they were just happening, like when I first started working.
Yeah.
And a gigantic Heritage guitar tattoo. Back when people didn't have tattoos.
Cool.
You know, like, I was like, that's awesome. You know, like, really cool.
I think all Les Paul should have Bixby.
Me
on it.
too.
Well, I've been the anti-rock dude for like 50 years. Anything that like, you know, the rock dudes of 1972
Yeah, yeah.
liked is what I hated. So
Exactly.
I want Les Paul to have Bixby's on. I want to like
Me
Keith
too.
Richards on the Tammy Show.
Right?
So
Big
cool, yeah.
And it's always
It
good.
looked like
that's
this, yeah. It was
That's
this
like my one argument I get in with people. It's like, oh, my Bigsby makes my guitar tune. It's like, no, it doesn't.
No, it
it's
doesn't.
your nut.
Set it
for
up
you.
right. Yeah. But back when we were young,
You
no,
not knowing how
no
to
one could
speak
set up
that.
a guitar, right? So like you would get a guitar to Bixby, it would go right out of tune. Wraparounds, no one could stay in tune. No one could get them in tune. No one could intonate them. Now they can.
Yeah.
You know, like, but so it's all come a long way.
We figured it
It's
out.
actually not that hard.
No.
If
No.
you know what you're doing.
Now it's
But-
fine. But no one bought, you know, wraparound Les Pauls back in the day
Yeah.
or juniors because no one could intonate them and they're such a badasses, which sounded terrible and they looked stupid.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, they really do.
They're just stupid. Sorry, the people, badass people. but
Yeah.
Those things look fucking stupid.
I bought
Fucking
I
stupid.
bought myself a 56 Custom in 1992.
Oh, my
And I was
favorite.
running around the show because I saw it and I took a look and I said,
Sorry about that.
Don't try this at home.
I saw the little filled holes. I went, this was a factory Bigsby. Running around looking for a Bigsby for it.
Oh,
and,
my
and
God.
I offended somebody. I was going, you have Bigsby for this? Oh my God, you're gonna ruin it.
Get out of here.
Get out of
Yeah,
here. It's
no,
like,
fuck
no,
you.
it had a Bigsby.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it
It's
what it
supposed
was
to have a Bigsby.
originally. I love that guitar, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, I love
That thing where
56
you say guitar's
Customs.
a great guitar, but it's not your guitar.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I've been to, because you know,
I've owned a lot of guitars. I've
I'm
mine.
pretty, if there's an electric bass made before 1968,
Yep.
I've probably tried it.
Yep.
Not every Japanese or Italian one, but
Yeah,
anyone that's
most.
decent. And I've learned the ones that I love. I've learned the ones that I love but aren't for me.
Yeah.
And I've learned the ones that I don't like but sometimes feel like I'm going to have anyway.
Yeah.
But guitars, it was a longer,
Those are
it was a
affairs.
longer journey.
Fun
Yeah.
love affair.
Yeah, you have
See,
a
I just
tryst.
I like guitars. Like, I
Yeah.
like, because like, what kind of guitars do you play? I'm like,
Lots.
I like a lot of different kinds of guitars. I don't,
Yeah.
like, some people don't. Some people just like Telecasters.
Totally.
You know, like, but I
Yeah,
like
that's
Les
good.
Pauls, and I like Telecasters, and I like Firebirds, and I like 335s, and I like your guitars.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of stuff, but some people don't. But like,
Yeah.
I play Les Pauls.
I must
I have 45 of them.
If I didn't rock
Yeah,
on that,
I know. But it's like one of those funny things. It's like my favorite guitars were 50s Juniors, and now the only guitar I have is
Is a
30s
D'Angelico.
archtop acoustic.
But it happens, it changes as you get
Yeah,
older. 'Cause-
exactly.
And then it also happens, you can buy a guitar and not get into it and put it away.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5 years later, find its purpose.
You're like, wait a minute.
That's happened to me a bunch of times.
Oh,
You know, like-
I did a little recording project recently, and I just happened to pull, I have this really old Washburn, it's actually the first jumbo flat top ever made. It's a
Wow.
Washburn style 503 from the 1890s.
Wow.
And I've had it for like 25 years, and I got it rebuilt I got it rebuilt, I was gonna sell it, because I had never used it.
Yeah.
And I got it rebuilt, and the bridge replaced.
You're like,
And
wait
I
a
picked it
minute.
up, I played one chord, and went, oh, I'm not selling
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Uh,
That
right
happens.
now.
It's a 27-inch long scale guitar, it's meant to be a bass
Wow.
guitar.
That is.
But I
Wow.
was-
That
I-
is really peculiar.
I got involved with Chris at this project where we wrote a song with Valentine.
Yeah, he told me
It's
about
awesome,
that.
by the way. It came out great.
Oh, thank you.
I
Well,
love it.
anyway, when I had that guitar out, so when I went through, I wrote the music for that, other people wrote those. So when I went to write the music, that's the guitar that I pulled.
Awesome. It
And
sounds really good.
And I just sort of hit it, went, oh, cool, and I recorded the demo on that, and then when we recorded the track, I recorded the track on that right over here. And Jacob, who's one of my young kids here, he's got this recording studio on his Mac. Wow, that guitar sounds great. It's like, yeah, and I've owned it for 25 years, and I just now got around to using it.
But that does happen.
I pulled it out of the case, there it was.
That's the magic of all
It's the
this.
perfect
You know?
guitar. And I pulled out to do the bass track. I have an old Epiphone Rivoli, and I mostly kept that around to play with Hill.
Yep.
They're not my favorite. I love them for the history, but they're not my
they're on every-
personal.
Respect the situation.
I was like an Entwistle Quaife guy, so even though I love Paul Samuel Smith, like I never kind of emulated his sound, but I kept one around, and we did the track with it, and we just got, and he, I don't know anything about recording. I'm the world's worst engineer.
Not the best.
But I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I said, do this, do that, and he got the most beautiful sound out of this thing.
Cool.
And I'm like, wow, I'm back in love with the Epiphone Rivoli that I've owned for
That's
30
what's
years.
fun about
That's
this.
what's fun.
love
You
it.
find it,
That's-
you change. The guitar
Right.
stays the same,
It's-
but you
right,
change.
and your ears
you bring
change.
Yeah.
something
What you're
to the
listening to
instrument,
changes.
that
It all
you
comes
didn't
back
have
to the
before.
music.
Yeah, and it all comes
Yeah.
back to loving the same
Someday I'll be
thing.
a good enough guitar player to be worthy of my D'Angelico. That's one of my goals, to play.
I love it.
You play up to your
Yeah.
guitar. That's always tell people,
Yeah.
I shouldn't buy a guitar that's good. I'm like, no, you should buy a guitar
it'll
that's good,
inspire you.
and then get good enough to play that
You'll
guitar,
get better, exactly.
and then buy a better guitar than that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then just buy 2 other guitars for the hell of it. You know? I have a friend who, if he buys a guitar and there's a 2 or 3 month waiting list, he's like, shit, I'm gonna have to buy at least 2 guitars just to
Start
get
me
me
over.
through to that guitar. You call them waiting guitars.
Yeah.
He's like, if they make me wait, I'll buy 6 more fucking
I've
guitars.
had guitars.
I don't
I've
fuck those
learned
people.
on, and then I moved on from.
Yeah.
Like I've never been I'm not one of those hotshot lead guitar players. I mean, like I've done it in advance, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Not-
yeah.
There are people who are a million times better, but I had to do some of that, so I bought an SG. I got a beautiful Pelham Blue 65.
Of course. Why
And
wouldn't
I
you?
did a bunch of recording where I tried to sound like Captain Sensible, and I did,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
came as
Captain
close as I could.
Sensible.
And then it's like, and it wasn't my guitar, and I ended up selling it. I loved it. I wish I still had it, but it had that skinny neck, that one. I
Yep.
couldn't
I
play.
I had an SG like that
couldn't
too.
play a
My,
C chord on
my
it.
first
Such a
SG was
shame.
like a 68 SG.
Yeah.
But those
I loved it
necks-
and I couldn't play it.
Those
I know.
necks make you
2
play
minutes.
better though.
Yeah, well,
Two hours.
Because it does
I
this.
learned to play a bunch of things I
Yeah.
had never played before, so I learned stuff from that guitar that I moved on to
Yeah,
other
yeah.
guitars with. So it helped. It was
That was
good.
like when I had my 67 335 and Park, and I would just turn
Yeah.
everything up, and you have to learn how to play it,
Yeah.
and it works.
That was a great setup.
That was fun.
Awesome. So we are hitting our 2-hour mark.
All right.
We-
Good.
So
I didn't
we're
even
just
get
getting
started.
I know. Well, that's
Wait,
what.
I haven't even cussed yet. What's wrong with you motherfuckers? I didn't even get started.
Yeah, get some cursing in there.
Yeah, son of a yeah. I'm gonna do another.
But every time we do this with somebody, we're like, well, we have to do part 2 because we
Yes.
didn't even talk about any of the things I meant to talk about. So, but we talked about a bunch of shit from what I gather. So it's funny because when you go back and listen, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't remember talking about any of this. But
Yeah.
we did.
I blacked
So
out.
We must have talked. Yeah, yeah. I think I was tripping the whole
Yeah.
time. But I would like to. I forgot at the beginning to thank Andrew Follett, who is our #1 super fan. And
Oh
we
yeah,
love him.
thank you, Andrew.
Andrew is the most awesome, and he sends me amazing emails about how much he loves. And actually, we're getting quite a bunch of comments on all the podcasts from Europe for some reason. Yeah, which
Big in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
all right.
so we're huge in Europe. Yeah,
And back together.
we're gonna go on tour. And
We
talk
are
about shit.
we are giant in Bulgaria.
But yeah, no, half the comments are European. They loved your podcast. This was so cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Do more of them. And like, all right, awesome. Because you don't even know really who's watching or if anyone's watching, and I don't really, care.
Send
Do
it
it
around the
anyway.
world, and it's your big
It's just so
Exactly.
cool. So some guy in like England's like, oh, I love your podcast. When are you doing another one? You're like, that's so cool. So
Today.
But Andrew Follett was always our bestest fan. He writes awesome, very inspiring emails. So even if he was just the only guy watching, I would do it anyhow. Because
and Peter, thank you so much for hosting us.
Yeah, Peter, this was and your place, of course, is amazing. We'd come out here anyway. Well, I did come out here a few weeks ago, Mike.
Thank you very much. And,
But I did spend some money here.
you're a bona fide customer.
I've bought a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, Doug has bought a lot of stuff from us.
Because you guys have the best stuff.
Well, we try. Thank you for the plug. We try.
You guys really do. And you guys just do it right. You're my kind of
We look
folks.
forward to the day when we're just open again all the time.
Yes.
People can just
It's
walk
coming.
in. It hasn't happened yet, but it's coming.
But we all survived. We got
Yeah.
to
We
this
made it
point.
through.
It's on its way.
It's
Yeah,
about the love.
it really
Exactly.
is.
You get the
And
love, bring it here.
thank you all for watching and listening wherever you are out there. And hope you guys are doing good at home and surviving all this crazy stuff. And we will see you the next time. Oh, and of course, we really want to thank Connor for helping us out, and Daniel over there who shoots the videos and edits them and all that stuff. And that's all the
Let's party.
people we need to thank. Otherwise, we'll just thank ourselves.
Yeah, thank us.
We came here. See you next time, everybody.
Alrighty.